My name is Taylor McCurdy and I work for Eco Training. I love hearing from all of the viewers. However, I particularly enjoy those of you who have been watching for a few years. Your questions are just so advanced and they really get me thinking. If you'd like to ask a question on Wild Earth, you need to register on our website. Once you've done that, head to the Live Safari page and submit your questions below the live feed.
Join our Explorers program so we can keep on sharing nature with the world. For a monthly subscription, you will have the opportunity to win fantastic Wild Earth expeditions, have access to an animal identification app, receive weekly highlights from our shows, and much more. All the money will go to keeping these live safaris on air, which in turn connects a global population with nature.
Hello everyone, my name is Trishala and I am a naturalist and safari guide here in Djuma Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands in South Africa. I think that the information that we provide and most importantly the questions that you ask give both you and I a really good idea of what's going on. My friend Fernando here, he's a flat-necked chameleon and I love them. They're just these gems that you manage to find in the bush.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth. Have you been watching Wild Earth and dreamt of being right there on safari with one of the guides? Well, now you can. Wild Earth is offering you a chance to buy a ticket to dream. You or a friend can hop on board a live Wild Earth show and join our guide on safari. The ticket is redeemable at any of our locations, anytime in the future. Only a limited number of tickets are available, so don't wait. Get your ticket now and start dreaming. Terms and conditions apply.
Good morning, everybody. As you can see, it is a wet, rainy morning, which means that, well, it's going to be one of those where we're going to have a lot of luck in order to see things moving about. Hopefully the rain will break at some point, and that will allow the animals to emerge, because most of them will be hiding out in this kind of weather. But anyway, we'll see how it goes. Now, my name is Tristan. On camera, I've got Marcel this morning, and it is a warm welcome to all of you across the world as you join us on this live virtual safari. Remember that you can talk to us, you can ask questions, you can have comments, and well, just interact with us in general, and you can do so using #WildEarth. Also, remember that you can become a part of the Wild Earth Explorers program if you head across to wildearth.tv/explorers. You'll be able to find out all the information about how to do so. So the plan is this morning for me is to try and, well, see if we can find anything. Kalamba was around camp quite a lot last night. The baboons were alarm calling a lot. There was the Pungwe pack of dogs yesterday evening, but it sounds like they were potentially attacked by the Shimungwe lioness, and I don't know yet. I'm still trying to find out if one of the puppies was killed or if it got away. But they've now seemed to be running south, with tracks at least go south towards the sort of southern boundary, and the Shimungwe lioness looking as though she's going up towards Simambili side. So we're going to focus our kind of search around the central area. We're going to try and see if we can find any sign for Kalamba. Yesterday was the 4th of December, which was the first day that we ever saw Kalamba in real life in her den site back in 2017, end of 2017. So it'll be really nice to kind of catch up with her on the eve of that. Well, I suppose not the eve, but the following day of that kind of milestone, if we want to call it that. So that's kind of going to be the plan. With this weather that we've got at the moment, most cats will be just kind of curled up and sleeping. They'll only kind of come out when the rain starts to settle down. So what we're going to probably have to focus on to start with will be things like snails, because there'll be a lot of those out. Tortoises should start coming out. Find hyenas can be fairly active in this weather. And then a lot of your antelope species will be kind of huddled in open clearings. So I expect that's where we're going to kind of find animals and what we're going to be seeing up front, and then the bigger stuff will start to come out a little bit later, which will be good. But no trucks this side. I actually haven't even driven this road since I've been back. Everything has been kind of happening to the west and north. Not much around the camp at all, so it's nice to drive here and just see what's been moving around. So far, a lot of hyena tracks, but very little in the way of anything else. I don't expect any of the water holes to be too active as well after the rain last night and then now this drizzle this morning. There should be quite a few puddles and mud wallows that will be full, so there's no real reason for any of the animals to be moving towards big water sources. So I expect most of it will be kind of finding things at random in random places, and if they need to drink, they'll just drink from those puddles or the grass itself. You often find a lot of animals gain moisture in weather like this from the grass itself. Something like a steenbok, they wouldn't have to worry about finding a water hole. We know that they are quite sort of dry tolerant, but when it's raining like this, a lot of what they get is actually off the grass, and sometimes you'll even see the cats licking grass in this kind of weather, and they get the moisture off the grass itself, and they actually don't have to worry too much about looking to find big water sources, which complicates things somewhat, but we'll see how it goes. Jerry, no, the animals have condos that they go into when it's raining, and they just kind of go and check themselves in and have a night under a roof and warm beds, hot water bottle. No, I'm joking. They do just sleep in the rain. What you'll find in soft rain like this is like something like a lion pride. They would lie probably fairly out in the open. If it gets heavier, then they start to move into areas that have got some cover, so some sort of a tree that they can get in underneath and just kind of sit and look miserable. Things like elephants and buffalo, they just don't really care about this weather at all. They kind of move around just as they would normally. They're not too stressed about these kind of weather conditions. So animals kind of just get on with it. What you will find is that the prey animals, so things like impalas, wildebeest, they tend to favor now more open clearings. So normally at this time of the day, if it's a sunny day and a warm day, they start leaving those open clearings and start heading into areas that have some semblance of shade. But because today is cool and rainy and it's cold and there's a lot of noise from the rain hitting the leaves, you'll find it safer for them to stay out in the open clearings, where they can at least see any sort of predator if it comes along. If they stay in those thickets, then you find that they unfortunately are quite susceptible to predation. You will find the odd kind of cat hunting in this. Most of the time not, though. They would have been fairly active during the night with the storm rather than trying to walk around in this, but sometimes you see them busy looking for food. Dogs are pretty active in this. They run around all over the show, so we'll see how it goes. I hear the radio is going crazy. I don't know why, what's going on. Somebody was calling me just now, but we'll get to them a little bit later. I didn't see any sign of Columba's tracks though. She was on the other side of the dam, but I just thought maybe we'd just check north. It intrigues me, her movements. As we know, she likes to walk a lot, and she's not a cat that sits still very much, but she was kind of, I'm pretty sure it was her tracks going into Buffelshoek yesterday. It's exactly the route that she walks. But she must have turned and then come all the way back down again, which is amazing because it's a long way for her to walk and then get back to where Tswalu found her. And the reason why I say she must have walked a lot is because that road, Trish had driven it in the morning, and her tracks were on top of that. Now, sorry, Elton, can you just repeat the name, please? It's about Kalahari being ready to mate. So yes, I do think she is, and I think she potentially has been looking for males. Her movements last week, where she went into Little Garden, indicate that. Carpenter. So her movements would have indicated that she went in there. She obviously was calling that morning. She was scent marking, and she went out of her normal kind of area into Little Gari and wasn't seen until last night, which is a solid 7 days since that has happened. So, well, since we last saw her. So, I mean, that's a long time. Maybe she found Mulawati to the south. Maybe she was, I don't know, found another male somewhere else. You never know with her. But I do expect her to be coming into estrus cycles and looking to mate. Who knows? Maybe she's already mated. You know, we know with Tandi and with Sabui that they mated without anyone actually realizing that they had mated. So we'll just see if that's the case. I mean, time will only tell whether or not she's had little ones. All right, so we're going to see what we can find. We'll try and scrounge around and see what there is. In the meantime, though, let's send you across to Trishala so she can say good morning.
This weather. Everyone's talking about the weather. Well, good luck, Tristan. I hope that he is able to find Princess Kalamba. It was very brief, our sighting with her last night, so it'd be nice to spend a good amount of time with her. Here you can see Tswalu Game Reserve. Very, very rainy and gloomy. But it's what we need. We need to have some good rain. So everything gets nice and green and everything gets happy. The bush gets very happy when it's rained about. Hi everyone, it's me, Trishala, and I've got Gert on camera with me this wonderful morning. And we have a lot of plans. Mostly to drive very slowly so we don't get wet or not too wet. And we're not too far from the hyena den, so we're going to check out the hyena den. And then I think I'd also like a leopard. I just have to also find one. I have a feeling Shadulu today, so we'll see if we get lucky with her. But first we'll check out the hyena den, and then maybe even Twin Dams, see if something's come in. I'm just gonna keep that just off straight, kind of like a diagonal between Twin Dams and Western Quarantine, because I feel like that's a good to-do area. And you'll often find that when a leopard that has a neighboring territory is out and about and sawing and things like that, the other leopard will come and advertise also. So we saw Kalamba last night on Quarantine, which is a portion of the territories that Shadulu and Kalamba share or border each other at. So maybe that means Shadulu would show herself because Kalamba did last night. Either way, we're going to find out because we're going to look. Tracking will be a little bit difficult because of the wet ground. But we're still going to give it a go. We're going to listen out for the great sounds. But first port of call, hyena den. So let's go. I don't think visibility has been this bad in Djuma in a long time. It doesn't feel... Well, I mean, if you're South African, it feels like summer because this rain is in the summer. But if you're from somewhere else in the world where your rainy season is in the winter, this would feel like, how on earth can you say this is summer? Everyone looks togged up. And there's a rain falling. We had this conversation this morning. Yeah, it was this morning. Tristan and I were like, it's meant to be summer. Why do we have our jackets on? It was our morning whinge. Tristan's got his full waterproof suit on. If he had some branding on it, he'd look very gangster. Linda! Asking a very important question. What has happened to Fernando the chameleon? Fernando the chameleon is gone. He obviously used that tree as his spot during the winter and spring. Because once summer came along, he was gone. And that's just the way it is. That's how it is in the wild. Things are always moving, changing. And now he is commemorated only in art. And 1 or 2 photographs. That's it. So Fernando is somewhere in the bush. I like that feeling. He's roaming around. Who knows how far he's traveled? How far he's gotten to, just on his little slow chameleon movements. And I've met chameleons since then, but none can replace Fernando. It's already fun and games. It was just wonderful to spend that amount of time with a chameleon, like we have in the past with Nonoka the chameleon. I was about to say comedian. Nonoka the chameleon. We had her for a long time. Excuse me while I adjust my cap there. And now Fernando, so maybe there'll be a new chameleon soon. Who knows? During the summer, though, there'll be lots of movement and lots of hunting, a lot more active, lots of activity compared to how it was in the winter. So we may see many chameleons, but not ones that stay in the same place all the time. That little guarri bush for Fernando was his whole life, his whole universe. In the tiny tuft of that guarri bush. And we'd make up all sorts of legends about Fernando. When I saw a chameleon that was severely ill, it looked like it had been attacked by something. BK suggested that Fernando may have beaten it up because it's taking its airtime. You know, when he's the chameleon star of Wild Earth. Lots of animals have legends like that, created by us. Oh, almost at the den. Like I said, I feel like I'm luckier when I get to the den with you all. On the back of my game drive vehicle with me. So, we're almost there. Let's see. Bring us the luck, everyone. Bring us the luck. Is that Roop? You'd like to know what happened to Nsele? Nsele got down from the tree and managed to get a bit of the carcass and then just went up another tree. Ruth? I'm sorry, I can hardly hear. Well, lovely viewer who was asking about what happened to Nsele. At the end of show, before show closed, she managed to get down. Wild dogs moved away, she got down from the tree and she grabbed a bit of the carcass. Guys, did you even send enough luck? The cubs are not out. Oh well. We will soldier on towards the waterholes and then search for a leopard. And I'm going to send you over to Kim who has one of those big tank animals that I love so much.
Good morning, everybody. We came out looking for some lions and rhinos this morning, and we have found a black rhino, which we're very, very excited about. And he's right out in the open, which is pretty cool for a black rhino. White rhinos are normally the ones that we see out in the open, so we're quite excited about it, but he is being a little bit difficult, moving off over the ridge there. And hopefully we can keep eyes on him for a little while. Welcome to And Beyond Pinder. I'm Kim, and we have Glenn behind camera this morning. And yeah, we, like I said, came out looking for rhino, and we found one, and a black one at that, which is pretty exciting. And he's very, very relaxed. I think most of our viewers will maybe know a little bit about black rhinos and white rhinos and the difference between the two. But just to explain a bit, black rhinos are usually quite shy. They're a lot more skittish than white rhinos. And this guy has been very, very pleasant this morning, up until now, really. He's been scent marking and feeding. He hasn't really given us too much attention, which is very, very cool. Usually they look at us and make sure to put many bushes between us and them, and often all you can see is just their ears sticking out from above the bushes before they just run away. So it's been quite nice spending some time with this guy. Should I move back, do you think?
Probably, I could just see him over the bushes and we find him.
Okay. Just thinking about repositioning, but I think we'll stick it out and see what his movements are. But yeah, he's just obviously having a bit of a lazy morning. Moving quite slowly around, feeding and scent marking. He doesn't seem like he's on too much of a mission. Sometimes you see them and they head down, sniffing around and scent marking, and just like on a real mission. But I think his only mission this morning is to keep out of our view. No, it does not. Oh, there. Oh, yeah. Oh, he's just gone. Sorry, we're looking at a bird that's just flown down. I'm going to move forward and see if we can see it again. It looks like a Burchell's cuckoo. Okay, it looks like we've lost him. Well, lost the Burchell's cuckoo and the rhino. I can just see his back. We'll try one more little window down here. Oh dear. Oh no. Here we go. I think we'll see him from here. Okay, there we go. It's a little bit of a long distance view, but there he is. Yeah, just making his way. You can actually see his head a little bit better now. There we go. And you can see the profile of his back, and that is one way also to tell the difference between a black rhino and a white rhino. You can see that he's got quite a kind of swayed back, quite a dip in his back, and that he's got like a lump kind of towards the back of his back. A white rhino will have a lump almost in the middle of its back. So that's one way that you can tell the difference between the two. Yeah, I'm feeding now. You can see he's having a go at that bush. Again, another difference. Black rhino will feed on bushes, so they are browsers. Bushes and small trees, whereas white rhino are grazers and they'll eat grass. And they tend to prefer thicker areas because of what they eat, so they'll be in areas where there are lots of bushes and trees, and white rhino will be out where there's lots of grass and grasslands. But so special for him to let us just spend time with him like this because, like I said, I'm used to them just running away. He is moving down towards another road, which I think would be quite cool if we can see him crossing over. Fiona, they are completely different species, so I'll say that they get on as well as, you know, like maybe a zebra and a wildebeest would. I'm just going to swing around and see if we can get them crossing the road. But they have kind of like a bit of a curiosity about each other, so they... sometimes, or in my experience, I've witnessed them kind of meeting at watering holes and checking each other out a little bit, quite curiously. They don't seem to quite know what each other are, but there's no aggressiveness or anything like that. It's just a little bit of sniffing one another. Yeah, they just kind of sniff each other, and then when they decide that neither of them are a threat to the other, then they just go on with their business. There he is. I'm just going to take it nice and slowly because he has been so chilled with us. I don't want that to change. Okay, let's carry on. How cool is that? I mean, we're pretty close. And he is just so relaxed with us. Shame, he's got a few wounds on his side, one just behind his front leg and one in the crease of his hind leg. And that's something that's quite interesting about black rhinos is that they've got quite... Oh, they're going to scent mark. It's got a tail out. There you go. Spray, spray. Well done. Good boy. Just making sure that everyone knows this is his territory. And no one else is to come here. But yeah, they tend to... black rhinos tend to have... They get like these skin infections. They don't have very strong skin. I'm not sure why, but it's fairly common to see black rhinos with wounds like that, like those ones. Just gonna stay here because I'm sure he will come out from behind. Yeah, there he goes. Does look like he's on a bit of a mission. You see he's sniffing the whole time. He's not actually doing much eating. So his goal is obviously scent marking and territory patrol. But I think we're going to stick with this guy. He is going down into a drainage line, which might be difficult to follow him. But I'm going to send you over to Tristan for now.
Well, I'm very jealous of Kim this morning. Sightings of black rhinos for us up in this part of the world would be very, 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 very special. We don't see them much at all. They do occur within the greater Kruger system, but not nearly as prominent as other rhinos that we get out here. But also just rhino around is very nice. They're such a special animal, can be so cantankerous at times. I always enjoy their attitude towards life. It makes me laugh when you're not on the receiving end of it, that's for sure. But we're just driving the Milwaukee at the moment. We've been going very, very slowly down the riverbed, and the reason why I've been in the riverbed might be counterintuitive, but it's got a lot of big trees, and so you'll find a lot of animals will come into this area and just kind of sit under the trees and hide out from the rain and not worry too much about the rain that's falling. If they're out in open clearings, then it's a lot more uncomfortable. But while we've been driving under here, a lot of the time we're getting into places where you don't feel the rain at all, and then as soon as you come out into these gaps, it starts to kind of feel a lot heavier. So it's a good place sometimes for multitude of species, from kudus to nyalas to leopards to well, pretty much anything. Birds of prey, it's often a nice place to find owls, as we know, and so it's a place that I like to check when the weather is like this. But today has yielded nothing, not even tracks to work with. It's just quiet at this stage. What might be actually a good idea this morning in terms of looking for stuff is to go and check some of the smaller little mud wallows to see if we've got any signs of froggies. The frogs are often out in weather like this, so maybe we'd be lucky and get, banded rubber frogs or water lily frogs or painted reeds, bubbling cassinas, red-leg cassinas, calling. You never know. It might be worth kind of scratching. In fact, where we're going now, there's a little pan, so it'll be a good indicator of whether or not the froggies are out this morning. I am surprised that we haven't seen an outbreak, or not an outbreak, but a sudden burst of bullfrogs this year, which is interesting. Now, Marcel, did you hear any animals that are? Pests, is that what it was, Elton? Sorry. With this rain, it's difficult to hear what's going on, but Taylor... Sorry? Deaf. Oh, okay, there we go. Any animals that are deaf? No, I don't actually. Let me just think about this for a second. Not that comes to mind. Hearing out here was a pretty important part of being alive. So no, I don't think so. Even in the insect world, a lot of them rely on sound in order to attract mates. No, I don't think so. I mean, there's maybe reported cases of animals being deaf due to something happening to them, but it'll be very, very difficult for them to survive out here. When something goes deaf, the chances of being killed is quite real. You've got a lot of things that eat. There's an animal. Let's stop and admire the impalas for a little bit. Sometimes in the rain it can lead to us finding something. If we just stop and listen for a little bit and watch these guys. So it's a little bachelor herd of impalas. This time of the year, not that common to see these bachelor groupings. Normally the bachelor herds are during the rut season. It's when you find the males on their own. Now it's quite common to have mixed groupings, but you can see how sort of shy they are at the moment. Even just us stopping like this, they'd rather move away. So they're going to be a lot more aware of their surroundings and a lot more aware of what's going on around them in order to stay safe in weather like this. And it goes back to what we were saying about being deaf. If the animals out here can't hear, there's so many different things that predate on each other, and even if we take in case, while we were off as well, I spoke to the guys that saw what happened last night with the wild dogs. Even if you take that case, predators, they still sometimes kill each other. So it's a difficult world out here, and if you can't hear, it's going to make life really tricky. But essentially what happened last night is the Shimungwe lioness attacked one of the dogs. The guys don't know if it was an adult or a pup, because what happened is that they saw the dogs. It was after dark, so it was immediately a close sighting, and as they drove down the road, this lioness walked out into the road carrying a dog and then crossed the road with the cub following. So they don't know, the guys said they didn't stick around long enough to actually see if it was a young dog or an adult dog. But quite sad to hear that one of the dogs was taken. by lions. It does happen, unfortunately. It's a common thing in wild dogs to see them being taken by lions, and like I say, even sometimes big male leopards will get hold of them too. So, and those guys have super hearing, so you can imagine if you can't hear out here, how difficult it would be at night, particularly for any sort of animal living in this space. All right, this is the little pan I was talking about in terms of maybe we would hear some frogs. It's just on my right-hand side. So, it doesn't seem like there's too much activity. I'll just turn off to listen. You know when it's kind of good frog weather, when you drive up and the kind of sound of the frogs is overpowering the engine of the vehicle. That's when you know the frogs are at their best. But it's completely silent. This has never really been the best frogging pan though. There's not enough vegetation for them to hide in. The best one is the one that's close to Twin Dams, and then those ones that are off Shabamu. They've got a lot of vegetation inside them, and the frogs seem to absolutely love them. But otherwise, all quiet here. Not even the birds are calling this morning. I think everybody's decided, let's just rather sit in bed and take it easy. Yeah, yes, that is probably the case. I mean, animals typically, when it's raining, try and seek some sort of shelter, so they're not as visible, so they're not sitting out on mounds, or in the case of the cats, or kind of walking towards water. You must remember, a lot of the time that we find animals is due to water dependency. So either they're on their way to water, or they are coming from water, and they're walking on roads, or they're crossing the road, or they're walking through the bush and they get spotted, or they create a disturbance by doing so. So whether that be elephants breaking branches, or a lion walking through and being alarm called at. So when it's raining like this, you're not getting that same movement that's taking place. You're also not seeing a lot of animals actively mobile. So they're not leaving tracks behind. They're curled up, trying to hunker down, which means they're not sitting proud and prominent. So spotting them is harder. So game viewing is always more difficult in weather like this. And for birds, their feathers get so damp and wet that flight is a lot harder than if they were dry. And so they typically also just sit and hunker down and wait for the rain to pass before they start being active. The best time to be out though is just after the rain breaks. So if you get a rain like this and then it stops and that sun just comes out, that's when you start to see a life kind of exploding everywhere. You see birds flying everywhere, calling, making a lot of noise, insects that are out. You even see the animals starting to kind of come out and move and do things. So when there is rain, there's always a silver lining at the end of it. You just got to be patient and kind of get through it and hope that you can find something in the rain itself that allows you just to hunker down with it and take it easy. I'm hoping that we'll get some ellies though. Ellies like this weather. I did briefly see a herd yesterday on our way home when the rain started yesterday afternoon. So maybe they'll be out and about. Although they were quite far north from where we are right now, that's for sure. So what we're trying to do is when we're driving now and looking is trying to check under as many trees as possible, particularly things that are very well foliated. So on our left-hand side, there's a prime example of a really good tree for animals to sit under. There's a wattle there, a weeping wattle. You'll see it right there. Now you can see that it's densely packed with leaves, which means that underneath there, very little rain actually gets through. You'll find that there's a kind of dripping that takes place, obviously, because water will find a way, but it's not as bad as sitting out in the open, kind of being hit by the raindrops. So a lot of animals get in under those kinds of trees. So when you're in the rain, those are the kind of places that you want to be looking, is right in underneath, closest to the stem or to the trunk of the tree as possible, because most things will be kind of curled up in that sort of area. Now you will see the cloth from myself frequently. Unfortunately, this kind of rain is the worst kind of rain for the camera lens because it's so light, it drifts, and it hits the lens all the time. So I do apologize if you see that wiping. It's part of being out here in the rain, unfortunately. All right, let's carry on. Let's see what else is around. The nice thing is no one's really driven this area this morning, so if we, hopefully there's something that's going to pop out for us, given that we're going where nobody else is. Anyway, we're going to carry on. We'll try and see if there's something. In the meantime, I'll send you across to Tim, something in a tree.
So we were just driving along through a little bit of a thicker area, and we decided to stop and just listen to all the birds waking up and getting active, and wanted to share it with you. There's this little red-backed shrike who was shouting, and there are just so many more. So we're going to sit and just listen for a little bit and hear what there is around us. Something so kind of energizing about listening to birds in the morning. It's like helps to just wake you up and get you ready for the day. Hear the yellow-fronted canary, which was that beautiful chittering, and even a zebra in the background, which was just beautiful.
Well, as you can probably tell, when the weather's like this, it's quite difficult to find animals. So we've been doing a bit of art appreciation out here. Here we have some sickle bush that have lost all their leaves and are yet to come back. Oh, there's a few leaves sprouting, but look at them all coming out from the ground like spears with lichen growing all over them. What does it say to you? It's minimalist, but there's something very historical about it, almost as if it was a Stonehenge type of structure. Anyway, that's all just my 2 cents interpretation, because that's what it is. It is just a very, very low-value art interpretation going on there. But what's really cool is that when it's damp and wet, the lichen really, really pops. Hear the wonderful birds. Tweetwix cuckoo. Lovely. Here you have some different types of lichen too. There's the long furry type, or mane type of lichen, M-A-N-E, as well as the typical frilly lichen that we're used to. Very cool. All these little things pop when the weather's like this. And it's just about appreciating them. So Tristan's appreciating one of my favorite little things in the bush. So why don't you go over and see?
Charlotte's looking at Sicklebush. We have found ourselves an animal. It's time to rejoice. No, I'm just joking. There's a little scrub hare that's sitting there. Now, most of the time, we don't see them at this time of the day. They're already kind of hunkered down and hiding away. But due to the kind of cool, overcast, dark conditions, you'll find a lot of these more nocturnal animals might still be out and about. So in weather like this, you often see things like civets, honey badgers, even sometimes porcupines still milling about. And that's just based off the fact that it hasn't gotten as light and it's not hot. It's easy for them to still move around fairly undetected, and so that's why you see them. But this one doesn't look that happy. You can see that little nose is going all the time. You can also see how the fur is matted. It must be a horrible thing to be an animal of that size in weather like this, because everything is wet. And wherever you go, your fur is just getting damp. It must be cold. We often talk about the kind of heat management that scrub hares have due to those big ears. The problem with that is that it also is counterproductive in really cold weather. And I wouldn't be surprised if we have this continuing for the day today, that we might even find the odd impala lamb that's dead tomorrow when they go through cold shock. Or damp cold shock like this. You often find carcasses. You can see though how well camouflaged that little scrub hare is hiding there. And that's why leopards often will walk around these bushes and try and kind of sniff and check around in order to see if they sort of hiding in that area. Deirdre, no, these scrub hares are not only found in South Africa. I've seen them in Botswana. Oh, there it goes. It's decided to bolt, unfortunately. But I've seen them outside of South Africa, so it's not just in this area. One thing I did want to show you guys quickly is Trishala was talking about trees, and I'm going to kind of show you a leaf here. Earlier I was saying to you that a lot of the animals actually will get moisture from the leaves and grasses, so they don't actually make their way towards water points. And you can see how, or what I'm talking about. You see all these little droplets? So often what you'll get is sometimes an animal will come along and it will basically just lick off these droplets and be able to use that as the moisture that they need. And they'll do that with grass, with various trees. I mean, a cluster leaf is always a nice one to show you because of the little hairs. The water forms these droplets on them. And you get this kind of beautiful appearance, even like this little silvery sort of shine to the leaf and to the droplets themselves. But it's easy then to get moisture off of it, and it doesn't take them long just to walk around and kind of lap up the moisture off of these blades of grass and leaves, and therefore not have to worry about moving big distances in order to find water that they need. I mean, a car would be a perfect place for them. You can see how many droplets are on the bonnet at the moment. All right, let's carry on. Our scrub hare has departed, unfortunately. It's left us to our own devices. Not very nice. Right, now this time I'm not going to call Kim Tim. We're going to send you across to her. She's still with her rhinos.
So we have now come across to white rhinos. Even though in appearance these two look far darker and almost black in comparison to that black rhino we saw earlier. And I'm sure that most of you know, but I will just remind you that black and white rhinos are not actually named because they are different colors. They have very, very similar skin tones, I'll say, but it's more to do with their kind of size and shape and all of that. The white rhino was actually called the wide-lipped rhino because they've got a very wide and square lip, whereas the black rhino was called the hook-lipped rhino. And there was a bit of a loss in translation, and people thought that they were called the white rhino as opposed to the wide-lipped rhino, and then the other rhino was just, as a result, called the black rhino. But these two are slick with mud, which is quite interesting because it's quite a cool morning. So the reason that they are slick with mud is not to keep cool. It is obviously to ward off flies and muggies and other parasites and things that would irritate the skin. And with all the rain and then heat, there are quite a lot of those around at the moment. So they've obviously found a nice mud wallow this morning early and lathered themselves in mud. I'm gonna... Johan, the white rhino is quite a bit bigger than the black rhino. Sorry, I'm just moving forward so we can get another view of these rhinos. There they are. But I'm going to quickly look in my book so that I can tell you exactly what the difference is in terms of weight. Oops. So, my book says, so it's actually almost half of the half the weight of a white rhino. So it says that white rhino can get up to 2,300 kilograms. And a black rhino can get up to 1,100 kilograms. So, I mean, it's quite a significant difference, quite a significant weight as well. But yeah, so, I mean, you can tell that gives you a bit of an idea of how big a difference it really is in size. Yeah, it looks like this is obviously a mother and calf, but that calf is quite old and should actually be on its way, and it's probably that mother hasn't become pregnant yet, and that is why she's obviously letting him hang around a little bit longer than he actually should be. He's definitely weaned off milk. He's got quite a long horn on him, and one of the ways that black rhino, or I mean just rhino in generally, are weaned off milk is that the growth of their horn actually gets in the way of them suckling from their mother. So as you can imagine, it's quite difficult. The teats are placed, or they're situated kind of behind the back legs, or in between the back legs of the rhino, and that horn obviously gets in the way, and you can imagine them trying to suckle and stabbing their poor mother in the udders. and then obviously that discomfort makes her discourage the calf from suckling, and that is one way that they weaned off. So this one is obviously, well, you can see the horn is quite big, and I don't think that he would actually be able to reach those teats anymore. Okay, well, they are nice and deep in the bushes, and I don't think we can be able to get a view of them again. Louise, that is an interesting question, one that I've not given much thought to before. Owing to the fact that they have very big round feet, I think that it would be highly possible that they could stamp out a fire. Whether or not they would, I can't say for certain, but my thinking is that no, I don't think that they would go up to a fire and purposefully put it out. I think that it is in their best interest to just avoid fires at all cost. Although they do have very thick skin, I'm sure that they would be susceptible to being burnt, and that would do them no good. So instead of trying to put out a bushfire, I think they would just run away from it. I also don't think that they are kind of clever enough to think oh dear, there's a fire, let me go put it out. So no, I don't think that that is something that a rhino would do. It is possible for them to, because like I said, I mean, like us stamping it out, they've got quite nice big round feet. I think that they'd be able to if they were, I don't know, if they wanted to. I just don't think that they would ever be inclined to do that. All right, but I think that what we are going to do is carry on searching. Oh, there's the youngster. Carry on searching for the lions that we are looking for. They were in this area yesterday. Yeah, so I think we're going to carry on along this road here and just see if we can see any tracks or signs of them. But for now, I'm going to send you over to Tswalu, who has got a spider web for you.
What a lovely guari bush we have here. Dun dun dun! It's not just a guari bush. It is a beautiful spider's web. I love looking at spiders' webs in weather like this because the fine droplets of rain get caught in this web and they look like pearls. Look at that. How pretty. Does make it sag a bit. But I'm willing to put up with the sagginess to see the beautiful drops of water like pearls. It really is a nature art day. That's a rattling testicular you can hear in the background. Oh, look at that. It almost looks like a piece of jewelry, something you put on your head or something like that. It is amazing. Arnie, you'd like to know how spiders produce their silk? Spiders have two very special proteins that they produce inside of them. Spidroidin 1 and 2. And they combine those proteins in an organ near their spinneret into a liquid. So the spinnerets are the parts of their body that are on their underside of their abdomen that will actually spin the silk, hence the name spinnerets. But that silk is in liquid form inside their body and is full of proteins. And that liquid is called a dope. The dope then gets pushed through the spinnerets, and once it's exposed to the air, it becomes a solid, like we see here. Yeah, hyenas. In the direction of the den. So that's a good indication. It's a very, very specialized thing to produce silk. Very, very specialized. And moths and silkworms obviously can produce type of silk, but nothing to the extent that spiders can. And because of the fact that they have these special proteins in them, they can be recycled. So that's why spiders eat their silk at the end of the day. Or at least most of the time they do. Sometimes they just abandon it. Because it's a very valuable and biologically expensive material. It takes a lot of effort to produce it. And for a little spider, they're producing biologically expensive silk and biologically expensive venom. Both things take a lot of time, a lot of metabolic energy to produce, and a lot of special components that they have to make, like these proteins. And remember that silk is made of proteins, venom is made of protein. Very intensive, expensive products. So that's why I find spiders amazing, just by the mere fact that they can do both those things. two very special adaptations. So now that I've shown you this gorgeous pearl of web of pearls, that's what I meant to say. I'll send you over to Tristan. He's got a bird of prey in a tree.
What fascinates me most about the animal circle of life is the intricacies between the large and the very, very small. I mean, it's very easy to go out there and find the large. Once you found the large, the cascading effect down to the small absolutely fascinates me. Alertness and situation awareness is by far the number one aspect for protecting ourselves out on safari.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth. An ever-increasing part of the global population is losing its connection with nature. Wild Earth is here to reduce people's stress and anxiety, allowing you to escape into nature even just for a few hours a day. However, Wild Earth is expensive to run, and we need help from you to keep this ship going. Wild Earth Explorers gives you the opportunity to be part of a program that supports the sharing of nature with the world.
My name is James Hendry, and I work here at Djuma Private Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands on the western fringes of the Greater Kruger National Park. My favorite part of getting questions from viewers is that we get to have long and varied discussions about all sorts of different aspects of nature. Because our audience comes from all over the world, it's very special to have different perspectives from everywhere. If you want to submit a question on Wild Earth, you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to the Live Safari page and submit your question beneath the live feed.
Welcome to my car. This is Wendy, and she's my favorite. She would love to have your name attached to her, so you can be with her every single time she goes on a safari here in Djuma. If you become a Wild Earth Explorer, you will have the opportunity to buy an engraved tag, which we will attach to her. We will make sure to send you a digital picture to show you exactly where you are sitting on her. You will have front row seat in every single sighting.
So we are having an extremely lucky day. We came out looking for rhinos and lions, and look what we have found. Some lions. We literally drove maybe 50 meters down the road from those rhinos that we saw, and voila. So it's this female, and then there are 3 subadult male lions with her. So she's probably the mother of those males. But I mean, she is just looking so extraordinarily magnificent. She's kind of looking out past us over the view behind us. Just basically showing off how beautiful she is. Oh dear. Can hear a train in the background, which isn't that great. But she does keep kind of looking quite, she's looking around a little bit lazily, but every now and again her ears prick, and it appears that she's kind of seen some movement off in the distance, which is quite exciting because it means that she looks, she is kind of looking out for stuff. There you go. See how she's looking now with her ears kind of trained forward. Oh, she really is just magnificent though. And just the way she's sitting so upright like that, it's so pretty. And then she's got her 3 youngsters just lazing about. They haven't even put their heads up since we've been sitting here. I'm just looking around, and I'm kind of looking at where she's looking at, and I can't see any other game. It's pretty quiet around here. It's possible these lions have been here for the whole night, and maybe the other animals have cottoned onto that and have moved out of this area, because just looking around it is dead quiet in terms of other game. Well, except obviously the rhinos that we've just come from. I think she's decided that as well, lying back down. But ever alert, she's got her nose up and ears alert, ears kind of to attention. Ivy, she could be deep in thought maybe about where her next meal is going to come from. I don't think, like us, that lions ponder the meaning of life, unfortunately, although it does look like that could be what she's doing. I think she's probably just looking out and thinking, where are all the animals for me to hunt? But they've chosen quite a nice spot here where they've got a nice vantage point. They can see quite far through the valley and up onto the next hills. So if anything does come into view, then they will definitely know about it. Betty, that's very observant of you. It does look like she's got scratches around her neck, but I think that is actually, it looks like ticks to me. And I think that I just want her to turn her head again so that I can see properly. But yeah, it looked to me like ticks. Lions are quite, they can be quite dirty animals. If anyone has pet cats, I think that you'd know that they are quite capable of grooming themselves pretty much everywhere. They're very flexible, and they can lick themselves almost all over the place, and they even groom each other, and they use their paws as well to groom. But sometimes lions just don't feel like it, I'll say, and they'll just leave ticks on themselves, which is pretty gross, I guess. And I think that that's what's on her. She's just got some ticks up around her neck. Yeah, but this is turning into quite a classic lion scene, just all sleeping and lazy. I will stick with these lions, I think, just because she was showing interest in the surrounding area, so it's possible that if something does come in, there might be a little bit of action. I won't get you too excited, but for now I'm going to send you over to Tristan.
While Kim is looking at lions, we have found little paw prints in the soft, muddy sand. You can see that there's 4 delicate little prints that are walking along, and that's for a female leopard. Now, which leopard this is could be debatable. It could be Thandi, it could be Tswalu, and it could be Langa. Any of those 3. We're right on the southern boundary, and they're kind of walking into this drainage line. So I'm just going to check around here, see. I know that Tswalu and the cubs have spent a lot of time in this area lately, and so it's possible that it's one of them that's around. But what you will notice with those tracks is that they're pretty easy to see. So this is after the heavy rain last night, but it looks like slightly before the rain we're experiencing right now. Those tracks are clean, but there is a little bit of water that's kind of pulling up into the sort of surface of the track, and it looks like there's a few little droplets in the track itself. So I suspect that was just prior to this rain starting early this morning. And I know that the guys have got tracks for Thandi are tortured at the kind of area where the little cub has been seen a lot. So I'm not sure if these continue all the way there, which we'll check now, or it could be maybe, like I say, one of the other two, and we'll just kind of have to figure it out by following the tracks a little bit. But it's always nice when you see fresh little paw prints like that in the soft sand. Makes things quite exciting, that's for sure. And we know leopard even from this distance, even though I haven't even gotten out to go look. I can see from here it's leopard, nicely separated toes, nice and round, size, everything, shape, just has to be a leopard. The only thing you could confuse it with would be something like a hyena, and hyenas, well, they would have toes that are close together and squished and almost make little banana shapes with their toes, so you can tell pretty quickly from far away whether it's a leopard or hyena in soft sand like that. But what's interesting is it looks like it goes in. No, they're back on the road here. I can see them just walking along, so we'll try and see if we can figure it out. Now, I know a lot of you have been asking about Junior and what's happened and all those kinds of things, so to fill everybody in so that we're all on the same page, Junior is well, we refer to him as Junior, but he's a male lion that was then, well, part of the Nkuhuma Pride, left during the Birmingham sort of takeover, and then became dominant around Auburn, and then was called the Auburn males by the guys up in the north of Manyeleti, as well as in Ngala. He was seen on Wild Earth lately at Ngala itself, and generally moved around kind of the northern side. But he was, when was it? 2 weeks ago or last week, he showed up inside Buffel's Hook with a very swollen bottom jaw. Unfortunately, he did not make it, so he is unfortunately died this week. What the causes of the death is no one is 100% sure yet. The samples have been taken and they are going to be tested to determine cause of death. There's quite a few options that it could be within it, and so we'll just wait and see what the reports are before jumping to any conclusions. Like I said, there's quite a few different options, but it's very, very sad. He was a beautiful, beautiful male lion. He had a beautiful mane and had overcome quite a lot. He was a single lion in the Nkuhuma Pride, and so when he got kicked out, he was on his own. Somehow managed to find an older lion that he hung around with that they called Buddy, who was also not in great condition lately, and they became this coalition together and did quite well for themselves. And then it seems as though something has kind of happened. What has happened here? Oh no, that sucks. So there's a termite mound to my left that is an old den site for hyenas, particularly. We used to have a warthog that used to live in there, but it seems the tree has fallen over and collapsed the entire entrance to the hole. I don't know how long this is. Maybe some of you have seen this already, but that's the first time that I've seen the damage to it. That's a shame. It used to be this beautiful little den that used to go in there. We used to have a hyena called Gwen that used to den in here. And I've seen, like I say, I used to see warthogs go in there, and I'm sure many other creatures used to use it. But with the collapsing of that tree and the roots breaking, so the whole entrance has caved in. Oh no, that's not ideal. Anyway, one of those things, I suppose. You get these things happening. It's from all the rain, unfortunately. As it gets wetter, the weight of the trees and the termite mound itself starts to dampen and the roots pull up. Could also have been something like an elephant that walked there and pushed that over. But that makes me sad. I used to like this den. It was always one that I checked because it was sneaky. It was a place where animals could sometimes be and you wouldn't even know about it at all. They would just kind of hide out here. I reckon we drove past a few leopards in that little mound, particularly in weather like this. It's part of the reason why I was checking, just to see if maybe this leopard didn't just kind of go in and hide inside that hole, but most definitely is not doing that, given the condition of that mound right now. I don't don't see any trucks though coming this way. I just want to check Gari Main to see if it's gone south. If it's gone south, we know Sibui or Langa that's gone that way. Just got to remember that I've got a roof on because I keep driving into trees and having a clattering sound as it hits the side of the roof. But yeah, back to the Nkuhume, like I say, it's still pending as to what exactly is going on with him. We don't 100% know. There's, like I say, a few different options that it could be, from snake bites to various other things, which will all come out, I'm sure, once the pathology is back and everything is done and the autopsy is finished. All right, in the meantime, let's follow these leopard tracks and concentrate a little bit and actually focus on what we're doing. And while we do that, let's send you across to Trishala.
Just in following leopard tracks, that's going to lead him to a leopard because that's what he does. Anyway, I am offering you all tree cambium for the day. Here is a marula. And that ready bit that's exposed there, that's the cambium. And lots of animals like to eat it. I'm going to show you why they like to eat it. Well, not show you, but I'm going to find some and I'm going to eat some because it's quite nice. You just have to make sure you get a nice thin piece. Yeah, that'll do. So underneath here is this is the outer bark, and then there's the inner bark. Oh, this is actually a great example. That's the outer bark there. There is the inner bark. And then this is the cambium. The cambium is a layer of cells that is most active and will produce cells outward to create the bark, and then produce cells inward as well to create the sapwood, or what you would know as the heartwood, or what you'd use for fires. It's also called the xylem wood. So the phloem will be moving sugars that are created from the top via photosynthesis down, and the xylem is sending up water from the roots up to the tree, or up to the leaves. And that's how the whole vascular system of the tree works. So if an elephant comes and pulls all of this out, or if I come and pull all of this out, then I'm disrupting the flow of sugars from the top to the bottom and from the water from the roots to the top. And that means that basically it's like severing the tree. It doesn't have to be broken in half for the tree to not be able to transport nutrients. This layer, if this layer is gone, that's it for the tree. This piece of cambium is a little bit dusty. Maybe I take a new one. Oh, that's a goodie. That's a goodie. So generally, this one's a little bit dry, I must admit. Generally, they taste quite sweet. But now I just look like a scrub here. Actually does have some sweetness to it. It's very rough though, so you can't swallow it. You can only just kind of chew it and get a bit of sweetness from it. And that's why elephants like it so much. Just plug myself in again. It's a little bit like chewing very slightly sweet paper. So it's not pleasant. But I suppose if you're eating leaves the whole day and chewing on stems, then maybe it's not bad. Excuse me. Thanks. I love the color of it. I think the color of tree cambium is gorgeous. Shame, poor thing. So that means that on one side of that tree, there's no sugar and water transport
which is a very interesting thing because trees are way, way cooler than we give them credit for. In fact, we're going to keep on talking about just how cool they are, but I'm sending you over to Tristan now so he can give you a bit more of an update. Millipede.
Well, unfortunately, we had a great spotted cuckoo, but it flew away, which is what birds do sometimes. They can be the most frustrating creatures when it comes to doing live wildlife, because they are always the ones that set you up for failures, that they'll sit there beautifully posing, and as soon as they're about to come to us, they'll fly away. But it's just the way it goes. The reason why I wanted to stop for that particular cuckoo is that we keep seeing it the same place. It's these two great spotted cuckoos. They hang around exactly where we are now. I've been seeing them, I think I saw them yesterday, I saw them the day before. So they're kind of sure bet if you ever want to see a great spotted cuckoo. There's also a whole bunch of impala tracks. So I haven't picked up where this leopard has gone. I'm just going to quickly check on Chitwa's side just to see if she hasn't crossed southwards. The tracks for Tandi that they've got are quite far to the north coming out of Djuma, so I don't think it's her, which is why I want to just double check this side. And if there's nothing here, I'm going to go back and just check if that leopard's not lying in that drainage line that we were running parallel to with those tracks. I had the tracks on the road quite far down that road, and then, you know, with talking about the mound and stuff, I didn't see where they went. So I'm hoping that she cut across and is going to be somewhere here. We know that she likes to leave her cubs, if it is Sibui, to the south, and so often she will kind of pop out in this area on the cut line of Chitwa. So I'm going to just double check, see if I can pick them up. In the meantime though, let's send you back across to Kim and her pride of lions.
So we've repositioned slightly so that we could get a look at the 3 sub-adults. The one did have his head up, but as it goes, as soon as you came over, he flopped his head down. There you go, he's having a look at us now. But yeah, they're all 3 males, these 3 youngsters. They've got little manes starting on all of them. When they sit up, you can see, but you can actually kind of see under this one's chin and around his neck. And you can see a little bit of thicker fur, which is his mane starting. Lynn, they don't really have time-specific hunting sessions. They're very opportunistic, so they kind of will hunt when they see an opportunity that they think is going to be successful. And I would say that they're more kind of governed by temperature rather than timing. So mornings tend to be a little bit cooler than the middle of the day, and that's possibly why they would maybe be hunting a little bit more at that time of day, but not necessarily. Today you can see it's quite overcast. I think it's going to be pretty cool for the whole day, and then it's fair game for any time of the day. Just depends on when they're going to see something that they want to catch. But yeah, I mean, it is common belief that lions are nocturnal and hunt during the night and early hours and of the morning, but I dispute that, because I've seen lions hunting at all times of the day. So yeah, it's not limited to nighttime only. Trouble? No. Just especially with the wording that you've used. So to be preyed upon is kind of like they're going to be eaten, and no, nothing eats lions. And even with that, they don't have very many natural enemies or threats really that are going to kill them, like be out to kill them. Their biggest threat, I suppose, of cubs, and especially these cubs, these males, will be other male lions that aren't part of their pride, that would come out and want to mate with their mothers or sisters, and then they would actually kill these cubs or try to kill them or chase them off. Buffaloes can be a bit of a threat sometimes, especially also to cubs. Some animals can recognize that a lion cub is going to grow up into something that will be a threat to them, and then they would actually then kill the cubs. But as fully grown adults, lions don't have very many threats. They kind of rule the roost, and that's why they can sleep as you see them sleeping, nice and sound without a worry. They're not very, very alert. And that's just because they don't feel that they are in any kind of danger. Very, very different to the cheetah that we were with yesterday, who are constantly alert, looking around, ears pricked, because they do have threats. They've got quite a lot of animals that will kill them. And that's also, I wouldn't say they're preyed upon by any animals, because they don't get eaten, they just get killed. Well, I mean, unless it's a crocodile. Not sure that these lions are going to do much. They're looking very, very sleepy. I think that we will stick around for a little bit longer just to see if they don't give us a little bit of action. But for now, I'm going to send you back to Tristan.
Well, while Kim is looking at prides of predators, we've got a very small predator that looks like it's cleaning itself. There's a little green pea spider, and they're quite common out here, particularly in the summer months. You see them all over the place. It's got these kind of beigey, sort of see-through legs, and then this bright green abdomen, which is where it gets its name, green pea spider. It looks just like a little pea running around. When it eventually does kind of turn, you'll see what we're talking about. What is it doing? Is it processing some web? Looks like it. There we go. You can see that little green abdomen, which is exactly what I was hoping it would do, is show it off. It's almost like it's modeling now. What are you doing? It's difficult to see if there's a web line that it's following. It almost looks like it is displaying. So it's almost trying to show off. I often find spiders will do this, is that they'll lift their abdomen like this and they'll present the brightest part of their body. You see it in peacock spiders. They do the same thing. And it's normally towards a potential mate, but I don't see any other spiders here at all. What it could also be doing is trying to do what's known as ballooning. And so what that is that they basically lift that abdomen like that, and they release silk. And the silk then travels and eventually latches onto something, and they can then grab it and move. And that's how these guys will travel big distances. But I don't see silk coming out. That's fascinating. What are you doing? Pretty cool though, isn't it? Beautiful little creature. All right, well, we'll leave it to its own devices. We're going to carry on following these leopard tracks that go into Chitwa Chitwa.
There's really not too much changed here since you guys left. Still just sleeping lions. I'm kind of willing them awake for your sake, but it doesn't seem to be working. Just having a real nice sleepy morning. Nick, the mane of a lion grows for quite a long time. I would say that it's probably fully grown at about 4 years old. It's a big full mane, but I think that it probably carries on developing even past that. It just kind of maybe slows a little bit in its growth, but it'll probably full out and carry on fulling out throughout the lion's life. But I'd say that at about 4 years old is when it's like a really good, full, healthy looking mane. Oh, we've got some ear twitching and eye openings over there, but that is all. Yeah, and that kind of growth of the mane falls pretty much at the same time as when the male lions become their most dominant. And so, I mean, these three males are probably about 1.5 years now, and at about 2 years they own. But they are still too young at 2 years old to go and actually take on another male to take over a pride. So they'll be nomadic for about 2 more years, and at about 4 years old, around about the time where that mane comes into full, they'll then start to look for a pride of their own. They'll start to challenge male lions in different territories, because you can imagine it's quite a difficult thing. You know, you get kicked out of home and then suddenly you have to look for an area that isn't already taken by another male lion, and that's quite a thing. So while they're nomadic, they're kind of squeezing in between and through other male lions' territories, and that's quite a scary thing. It's quite a risky thing, and they actually have to try and be quite elusive. They have to try and stay out of the way of those other males. Oh, nice stretch. And then, yeah, when they feel like they're big enough and strong enough, they will then start to try and push other males out of their territories to find their own, or take over their own territory. You can see his mane under his neck there now. It was quite nice to see the mane quite well now. But, okay, 2 of them are up, so I think we, again, will stick around, and hopefully we get a bit more than just head up, but we're going to send you over to Tswalu with a surprising bird.
Here is a very wet battalier. It's a lovely male. It's trying to keep itself and its feathers in good condition despite the rain and the wetness that it's experiencing. And you'll find that big birds or large birds at this time, when it's really damp, will find it very difficult to fly. As you can see, perched, waiting for it to warm up just a little bit, and for the air pressure to increase. You see, when it's a low air pressure, that's when we have storms and rains, and basically what you'd call bad weather. It's a low pressure system, and birds actually need high pressure in order to create lift. And at the moment, it's low pressure and a lot of the space, because air is not just empty. All that air is a collection of molecules, gases. And now there's lots of water vapor in the air also. So that means they're going to find it very difficult to create the lift that they need. They can still do it. It just means that it takes a lot more energy to fly takes so much energy already that birds have a higher body temperature than we do. It's closer to 40 degrees Celsius. And those are birds, which means that they've adapted to flying for a long, long time, and they have hollow bones and things like that, feathers. But mammals that fly, like bats, they expend so much energy, and the more energy you expend, the more toxins you release into your body, and the higher your temperature is. Look at it, having a good look. It's aligning all of its feathers, making sure all its flight equipment is in good condition. I dare say these might be one of my favorite eagles. I say one off because you know me, I can't choose favorites. But I love their colors so much. Red-chested cuckoo calling in the background. Look at how well it uses its beak to align and clean those feathers. When we think about beak structure, we usually think that it's just feeding that determines what type of beak you may have. If it's hooked, then you're predatory. If it's long, tweezer-like, you go after little insects. If it's robust, like a finch, maybe you're going after seeds and nuts, that type of thing. But in fact, it's not just that. There's two things that influence the structure of a beak. One is your feeding strategy, and second is how well it works to get around your body so you can actually take care of your feathers appropriately. Samantha, you want to know what the wingspan of this Batelia is? It's quite large. It's about 1.8 meters. And it's quite a stout bird, because when it puts its wings out, you can see that the wings are very, very long. And when you see them flying, it almost looks like they have no body. It's just one band of wing with a almost bat-like shape. Anna-Marie, you said this poor Batelia, so bedraggled and wet. Certainly, but at least it's got a breeze going where it is there that'll help dry it off, but probably make it a little bit chilly. Luckily, as I'm sure lots of you know, feathers are excellent insulators. Feathers are made out of keratin, just like your hair and your fingernails. A truly marvelous substance, really, or material in nature. It's changed so much, it's been manipulated so much to do different jobs. Feathers would have started like scales, or I'm sure you would know that birds are direct descendants of dinosaurs. In fact, they still are dinosaurs, because taxonomically, you'd have to put all the direct descendants of an animal in the same group, and technically they are dinosaurs. They are direct descendants. And early dinosaurs would have had scales, and then those would have then been adjusted by fraying at the edges. And fraying at the edges, that was basically the beginning of a feather, and what we now know as a feather. Now that may have assisted them by keeping them warm, because despite what we may have learnt growing up, not all dinosaurs were completely ectothermic, so not all of them were completely cold-blooded. Most of them actually had the ability to kind of control their body temperature. Not to the same extent that endothermic animals can, but they certainly could maintain some sort of temperature in their bodies. So feathers may have assisted with that. Feathers may also have assisted in leaping. So if you were a dinosaur and you were running, and then your scales became a little bit larger, a little bit more frayed, then as you leaped or leapt, it would have given you just a little bit extra lift. And it starts like that, and then before you know it, you end up with animals who can conquer the sky when their ancestors were ground-dwelling dinosaurs. Barney, you would like to know if there are any birds that hunt in flocks. Not that I know of. You get like African hawk eagles that will hunt in pairs, where one will flush out prey and then the other one will kind of swoop down and grab it. But not one that hunts in flocks. But also remember that a flock, much like a herd, brings safety. And if you were a predatory species, you wouldn't feel the need to invest in safety to the same extent as a prey species. Sometimes we see a whole lot of basileas hanging out together, but they're certainly not hunting together, and they certainly don't create a flock. Oh, that red-chested cuckoo came so close. Very nice. All right, well, we're going to keep on going. We're now on the search for Shidulu. We're in the same area that I've known her to be in a lot of the time, so we're going to spend some time looking for her, and I'm going to send you over to Kim and her lion pride.
We are still here with our lazy lions. And Glenn and I were just discussing the difference in mane size. So we've got two heads up now, and you can see underneath their chins and around their necks a little bit of mane. And we were discussing how I think that the one on the right-hand side's mane is a little bit bigger or more developed than the one on the left, but the one on the left has got quite a bit more darkness in the mane. And with a little trio like this, it's often the case that there is one that is a little bit more dominant, one who kind of leads the way and calls the shots a little bit. He'll be a little bit bigger, he'll have a bigger mane. And often, yeah, sometimes, well, it's believed that lions with darker manes are more dominant. There's a common belief that the more testosterone that an animal has, the darker its mane will be. I'm not sure that there's any truth in that. I don't really know, but I feel like it's more just a genetic thing. But yeah, that one on the left has got quite a nice kind of dark coloration to his mane. I think he's going to end up having a beautiful big mane with lots of different colors. These guys' dads do have quite nice dark manes with a bit of orange and dark, kind of almost black. which I'm sure that will be passed down to these three. Gary, that's a really good question. Why other big cats don't have manes? I have to say that I really, really don't know. The reason that, it's all just kind of theorizing, but the reason male lions have manes is, one, for protecting their necks when they're fighting one another, and also to assert dominance. So I think that more dominant male lions will have bigger manes. And why other cats don't have that, I don't know. It's not like leopard and cheetah don't need to protect themselves from other males in the territory. So it's a very good question. I would say it's just kind of a different way of displaying, I suppose, displaying dominance. That's just, they show that they're bigger and stronger than some, other males. Just like how birds have different ways of displaying that they are the more attractive male, I suppose cats also just have different ways of displaying that, and lions have their mane. Yeah, but that is interesting. Olivia, I'm just going to have a little think before I answer that. But yes, I think that they are. They're the only ones that kind of stick in groups and prides. Leopards are completely solitary unless it is a female with cubs or unless it's a pair of mating leopards. Cheetahs, cheetah females are solitary, again, unless they've got cubs or unless they're mating. But then cheetahs, if there are males, they'll stick together in a coalition, the same as how male lions will stick together in a coalition. So cheetah, the male cheetah are social, but females are independent. It's quite interesting that, how they've just kind of developed differently, different social structures, and different ways of protecting themselves. So, lions, obviously their protection is just their strength and size and number, whereas leopards are very strong, but their protection is more being so elusive. So instead of fighting off danger, they'll rather just completely avoid it and stay out of harm's way, whereas lions will are happy to kind of face it head on if they do come across it. Yeah, I guess they just feel more comfortable to do that because they are in a group. Quite interesting. It is starting to drizzle here. Shame they are getting a little bit irritated by flies. That one on the right is flicking his tail and shaking his head and twitching his ears. The flies that are bothering him. Look how he's wrinkled up his back like that. He's all scrunched up. Looks like one of those very wrinkly dogs. Oh, shame, the flies really are getting to him. So, Little Vixen, these are male lions, all three of these. The female lion, or the lioness, is just to the right of us. We can't get her into the frame at the moment. But, yeah, that's another interesting comment about oxpeckers and lions, because lions don't tolerate oxpeckers, and oxpeckers, I think, have learnt that lions are not not very amiable hosts for their ox or for their pecking. I mean, like they shouldn't need oxpeckers. You know, oxpeckers are useful for the animals that they frequent, such as buffalo and giraffes, because there are quite a few areas on a buffalo or giraffe that those buffaloes and giraffes can't get to, you know, whereas lions, like I was saying earlier, can get to most parts of their body to groom and clean it, and they just choose not to, which is, I can't understand it. It's like seeing a tick on your leg and just leaving it there, which is pretty nasty. But, we're getting a little bit of action. Come on, guys. All right. I think we're going to stay because there's some movement here. We'll see if there's any more movement. But for now, we're going to send you to Tristan, who has got another cat that we've been talking about this morning.
Right, so we have managed to find our leopard. We came back to the area where we had the tracks, and we've got Kalamba, who should come out. Remember the termite mound where I said maybe she'll be hiding? That's right where we are right now. So obviously in the drainage line, but she's going to appear directly in front of us, which is going to be really, really, really good. I'm trying to get Trish into the area because unfortunately Rusty's experiencing a few problems when it comes to battery life, and so I'm trying to kind of get her here before she kind of disappears. But look where she's going, straight to the termite mound where we were hoping to find the leopard earlier. Just goes to show you, sometimes you got to double back a little bit to be able to find what you're looking for. And we were saying this morning we wanted to find her, and I'm super, super excited that we have managed to get her this morning. What amazes me, though, is what she's doing here. This is not an area for her. She's generally not down in this section, but maybe she's just tracking Mulawati down here. And that's maybe why she's kind of moving around in this area, is to try and find a male. Also just to make sure that she kind of marks her territory, doesn't allow any, incoming sort of threats like Sibui. Look, she's going to the hole. That's so funny. How random is that we were talking about it? Are you also confused as to why the hole is closed? Oh, she is just so magnificent. I absolutely love spending time with this particular cat. Obviously we've watched her grow from a little tiny cub, and I was talking about it this morning that we saw for the very, very first time, what are we now? Is it 3 years, Marcel? It is 3 years. Yeah, 3 years ago. It's crazy to think that's how long it's been already since, the first time we laid eyes on her. And in fact, it's like almost a year to the day. I mean, yesterday would have been a year for me, or 3 years to the day, that we kind of saw her as a tiny.
Sorry about that, guys. But don't worry. I'm going to take over from Tristan so we can still spend some time with Kalamba. He will probably have to head back to camp, just because of some vehicle issues. But at least you got to see Kalamba and Tristan for a little bit. We'll have them back this afternoon. So now I'm going to go and try to very quickly, but with the rain roof it's not easy to move very quickly. So we'll go medium paced towards Kalamba. Now, unfortunately, in weather like this, if she moves if she moves into the block, we won't be able to follow her a lot. I mean, if it's open, that's fine, but things are quite muddy and soft and sensitive. So we will respect that, and we won't follow her if it becomes too difficult in the block. I'm sorry if you can just hear wind. We're on our southern boundary, so it's one of those main roads. Chantal, you'd like to know how much rain the Sabi Sands gets? Well, in the summer specifically, we're probably looking at about 300 millimeters. 3 to 5. I'll leave 100 millimeters for the rest of the year. And it also depends. So the average for this area for the year is 400 to 600 millimeters. And then the majority of that falls in the summer. That's why I say maybe 3 to 500 in the summer. But it also depends on the year. Maybe it's a year of drought, maybe it's a year of good rains like last year. So it very much depends. But on average it's 400 to 600 millimeters. Specific qualifications you need to become a guide? Yes, there are. You've got to be FAGASA qualified. FAGASA is the Field Guide Association of South Africa. And you have to do exams through them, practicals through them, and then you'll come out with your different levels. And then you can do trails and stuff like that, which allows you to take walking guests or guests on walk. And to become a guide, that's all you need is the FAGASA qualification. But lots of guides supplement that qualification with diplomas or in some cases even bachelor degrees. But usually when people have a bachelor's or any kind of higher education degree, it's usually that's done first, and then they decide to get into guiding and do their FAGASA qualification, which is the way I'm doing it. We're halfway there, everyone, halfway there. I'm just gonna have to listen to the radio to see if she's moved. Tristan's game drive radio is not working very well. He sounds like he's in a bubble. I wonder if it got wet. So we're gonna just have to look out for vehicles. Trish, come in for Trish. See, sounds like he's in a bubble. I am approaching Cheetah Cut Line Fire Break.
Thank you. I'm going to be leaving and my contact now mobile back for
can hardly hear you, but I'm going to come to the break and then see if I can see you guys. Wow. Alright, well, like I said, we're almost there, and I should be able to see them, but I can't hear too well on the Game Drive radio. So I'm going to send you over to Kim. Apparently she's got another avian dinosaur for you.
We found another red-backed shrike. They are fairly common at this time of year. They are palearctic migrants, which means that they migrate all the way up to North Africa and even some of East Asia and a little bit of Europe. And they come back here in November. So they've all just come back to breed for the summer down here. But he's quite a pretty little bird. It's quite nice because, like I say, they're fairly common at this kind of time of year, so you don't pay too much attention to them because of how many they are. And when you do stop and actually give one your attention, they're actually really, really pretty. He's got that beautiful dark eye stripe and grey head, and obviously his red back, after which he's named. Shrikes are really cool little birds. They're kind of like tiny little birds of prey because they prey upon insects and little lizards and things like that. And some of the bigger shrikes, like the fiscal shrike, actually even prey upon other small birds, like the waxbills, which is pretty impressive. I've actually watched a fiscal shrike like hawking, which is a way of the name of a type of hunting. They like sit up on a perch and then they dive bomb down. And I've watched one dive bombing into a little group of mannequins, little bronze-winged mannequins, and I mean, like, how cool is that? It's like a little bird of prey. I mean, they're not actually raptors of any kind, but they'll still go for it. It's quite... yeah, they're quite impressive to watch. I've lost sight of them now. But it is a beautiful morning. It's very, very cool, and all the birds are very active. That one that's just flown up to the tree is a rattling cisticola. He's making his little noise. And they are very, very noisy. It's a very common call that you'll hear here on Phinda. They're often sitting at the top of trees just like he was, calling away. No, he's just moved to the top of another tree, where he is continuing to call away. And cisticolas are very, very difficult to tell apart. Some people refer to them as LBJs, little brown jobs, because they all just look like little brown birds, and most people don't even bother to try and tell them apart. But all cisticolas are kind of named after the call that they make. So rattling cisticola, croaking cisticola, zitting cisticola. Oh, he's coming closer for us. And that's just because, unlike the red-backed shrike with his red back, the cisticolas don't really have any very obvious visual kind of character that they can be named after, so they have to be named after the sound that they make. So this is the rattling cisticola, so you can hear he kind of does like a little bloop bloop before, and then there you go, the rattle at the end. Very busily shouting his business to everyone who will listen to it. And as we sit here, we are being abandoned by our birds. Let's see if there's anything else nearby. It's quite an interesting fallen over log over here that we can see has been made use of by animals who would wallow. So that could be anything from warthogs and buffaloes to the rhinos that we saw earlier. We actually maybe 20 meters away from where we saw those rhinos. And it's possible that they actually made use of this log this morning. You can see that there's quite a lot of mud crusted up against it. All the way along. I mean, the whole length of that fallen tree has been used. Yes, Elizabeth's commenting on the beautiful calls that we are listening to of all the birds. And yeah, you're right. It is very, very calming. It's a beautiful noise. Yeah, and it's something that I feel like I could just sit and listen to all day long, to be honest. Here she is, Hlalamba. She is moving into Torchwood. What a stunner. Oh, I love seeing a leopard. Doesn't it just make your day? It certainly makes my day. And now that she's heading into Torchwood, it's going to be just a little bit more complicated. Because now there's a huge lineup for her, so we've got to figure out who can go into Torchwood, who can't, all that kind of thing. But we're going to look from Djuma for a little bit first. At the moment, all the vehicles that are here can go into Torchwood, so as long as there aren't others that are in Torchwood, should be fine. Okay. I think it's safest to just watch her from Cheetah Cut Line at the moment. Turn in here. Like I said to you, we've got to be very careful about where we drive because the ground is soaked. It's been a very, very quiet morning, and that's why the sighting is very, very busy. So we may only have a limited time with her.
to find the least intrusive. Yeah, there's a small gap. Nope, rain roof is on. Let's try it. Come out, there we go. Jerome, you'd like to know if we find animals dead from exposure or bad weather? Less likely. We might find them dead from lightning that struck the ground and things like that. But not exposure unless it's a really, really dry year. And or very, very cold year. But also remember that the animal doesn't die from exposure. The animal dies from something else that is a result of the exposure. For example, during the drought, you'll find that, and when it's very dry, animals will start to eat leaves that are very high in tannins, and that causes digestive issues. And those digestive issues is what kills them because they can't absorb nutrients anymore. Hold on. There we go. There we go. Alrighty. Looks like I'm not the only one. I was about to say, I think I'm not the only one with a leopard. But no, Kim has a rhino, so let's go over to her.
So we've found the same two rhino who we had earlier, but they're quite a bit closer to the road, so we can see them nice and clearly, and you can really just see that beautiful mud that they've got on themselves. And if you look at the belly of this one closest to us, you can actually see there's like a kind of scrape mark, and some of the mud has been removed, and I think that they actually have made use of that rubbing post that we were with earlier. You can see all the marks. Oh, it's actually so beautiful. Like, you can see where they've walked past bushes, and the thorns and twigs have just scratched along their back, just making those deep grooves in the mud. And also just above the mud on the shoulder of the one on the right hand side, you can see a tiny, well, not a tiny group, but a group of flies. It's also quite interesting that you see that those flies are kind of mainly on the skin and not on the mud, which just shows that mud is a very, very, it does its job well, keeping those flies off. And even if they are on the mud, I suppose they're not directly on the skin, so that's helpful as well. It must feel so good, like just rolling in mud and then rubbing up against a tree. Like, with their thick skin, you can imagine that being a really, really good solid scratch. Maybe they'll use that tree that they're standing next to rub against. No. Mother's like looking at us as if she's only just noticed us for the first time now. These ones, no. The ones on Pinda, they're very, very used to vehicles. They know that we're not a threat. They have no reason to charge us or be dangerous towards us. They can kind of just be curious. But this is the wild, and these are wild animals. So you can never just dismiss an animal as not being dangerous when you're out here. They will always protect themselves if they feel that they need to, if they feel that they are threatened. I'm just going to reverse so that we can see these guys a bit better. But generally speaking, white rhino are not considered a dangerous animal to humans, no. They would rather just run away and leave us to our own, leave us alone. They wouldn't just go out of their way to attack us, which is the case for most animals, but white rhinos are not known to be aggressive. But having said that, they do have horns. They are very big and they can run pretty fast. So if they did feel threatened by you, then that they would be dangerous. Leslie, the horn of a rhino can grow at a rate of 8 centimeters a year, so it's quite quick. And as you can see with these two, the one has a bit of a horn, whereas the other one does not. The bigger one of the two's horn has actually been removed, and on Pinda, that is something that we do to protect the rhinos, because, as I'm sure most of you know, rhinos are poached for their horns. So we try and remove the horn so that there's no reason to shoot the animal. There's no reason for the animal to be poached. The youngster, obviously, it looks like he hasn't been dehorned yet. At about 2 years old, we dehorn them, and I think this guy is a little bit older, or around about 2 years old, so he'll be dehorned soon enough. And it's quite a sad thing. I mean, it's quite sad to see them without their horns, but at the same time, we probably wouldn't be seeing them as often as we do if they still had their horns. So it's just something that we have to do to protect them. And I mean, what a privilege that we can sit here with these rhinos like this. They're not scared of us. Yeah. Jerome, no, they are not related to horses. I'll say that the only, or one of the things that they share is that they are uneven-toed ungulates. And that's probably as far as they are related. And that just means that they have, horse just has the hoof that isn't split, doesn't have like a cow that has a split hoof. So it's just got the one toe. A hoof would be considered the single toe, and rhinos have 3 toes. I would say that is probably kind of. So ungulates are split into those 2 categories. And ungulate means a hooven animal. So they're split into 2 groups, uneven-toed and even-toed ungulates, and that is as closely related as they are. They share that they are uneven-toed ungulates, and with that they don't even have the same number of toes. So no, not related. wow. I've just turned around and I can see another 4 rhino behind us. I'm going to reverse some more and see if we can get eyes on those, or rather camera lens on those. My eyes are already on them. And now it's quite interesting because you can see that they are very different coloured to the ones that we've just been viewing, and that is just because they've been in different mud. It looks more like dust actually, rather than the thick black mud that these other ones have been involved in. Okay, there they are. Sorry, we're a bit uneven here. Oh, so there are 4. There's a little one behind the bush that we can't see at the moment. We're going to wait for that little calf to come out of the bush. But while we sit here waiting, I'm going to send you over to Tswalu.
How insane is that animal?
This is out of this world. Fantastic. Good, Mama.
Wow, what a way to start off.
It's just such an incredible privilege to be out here. It just keeps on delivering.
There you go, there you go. Heart is pumping right now.
3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Look at this, everybody. We've got a live kill.
The croc's holding the tail. It's holding tight. Lucky wildebeest.
There's nowhere to go. This is a disaster in the making.
Something that I have never seen before in my entire life that you are now watching live.
My heart is in my mouth, everybody.
Look at this. It's gonna make it. It's going, it's going.
This is just too magical. Hi, little guys. That's great, isn't it? Look at that. Scuba Steve has got a friend.
You've got a friend in me.
It couldn't be a better morning. This is just too special.
Oh my goodness, we've got a turtle.
How epic is the fact that we're coming to you live from the Chobe River?
It's the most incredible feeling to be here. This is live, and we're in Rwanda. This is a very, very different adventure, charged with emotion.
I did not think I would ever face my fears like this.
Okay, so we're still with the next 4 rhinos that we saw. And I mean, I was just talking about how we have to dehorn and how, oh, sorry about that, how, you know, without the dehorning, we wouldn't see so many rhinos, and we just turned around and saw 4 more rhinos. I mean, what a privilege. Like, there are so many. We see them so often, and it's an endangered animal. I mean, it's really, really special. Shame this, it looks like it's a female, and she's got her little calf. That calf looks to be less than a year old, and she's flanked by 2 males who are probably looking to mate. They don't look like they're giving her too much of a bother. The one's keeping his distance. I wonder if there hasn't been a bit of a battle between the 2 males, and that one's come off second best. But again, there we go. You know, the population continuing to grow. She's got a calf there, and she'll breed, or she'll mate. I mean, she could mate right now if she's ready, and become pregnant, and just carry on growing the population of a species of animal that are, or, you know, are meant to be going extinct. So quite a cool thing to be involved in, to see the growth of this population. Morgan, that's an interesting question. There's quite a lot to say on that, I suppose. Unfortunately, because humans are the reason for many animals, so lots of animals that are going extinct, it is because of us, it's because of people. So with those animals that are going extinct, they are the ones that we would intervene with. So, for example, with rhinos, yes, we would intervene. If there's an injury that is life-threatening, then we would get involved and we'll treat that injury. Cheetah is another one that we'll treat, but with most other animals, we unfortunately just let nature take its course. On closed reserves like Pinda, we try our best to have everything go on as naturally as possible, and nature's course is the best way, but it's not always possible in a fenced reserve because it's unnatural for these areas to be closed off. They require quite a lot of careful management with things such as treating animals. Also, another thing is like doing controlled burns, and that means that just like burning an entire area of a reserve to kind of mimic what normally happens in things like the Great Migration. When there's enormous numbers of animals moving through an area, they graze and browse the area flat, which actually is really important for the vegetation. It allows it to start again from scratch and come back stronger. And because we don't have migration or migratory populations moving through this area and grazing it like that, it's actually quite important that we burn the areas to allow that regeneration of plant growth or vegetation growth. So yeah, quite a lot of management that goes into these fenced off reserves. But it's just the way of things, I suppose. It's what we have to do to keep these populations going and try and fix our mistakes from years and years and years of just destroying habitats. It's quite sad. I mean, I don't think it'll ever get back to what it was, but we do what we do. We do what we can do. But that's why scenes like this are pretty happy. You have to just think like, at least we've started to bounce back from it, seeing little families like this living in the wild happily, youngsters all over the place, mating happening. It's really a positive thing. I think that we are going to carry on going. I want to go and check on a watering hole and see if we can't find some more wallowing animals, possibly more wallowing rhino. But while we do that, I'm going to send you over to Dan.
Well, good morning and welcome to And Beyond Ngala, everybody. I'm Dan, and on the camera we've got BK this morning. So finally, we've managed to get out and about. We've had quite a lot of rain this morning, and it's been a bit disruptive. And because of that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hang around in the riverbed here. The sand doesn't get too wet, particularly if it hasn't rained so much. It only rained about 30 mils in probably the past 20 hours or so. Makes the roads a little bit tricky to drive, but the riverbed's a really good place to spend the morning. A good place to look for tracks. And you'll see as we continue down here, looking on the banks, nice and thick, beautiful big trees on the sides, particularly for leopards to maybe hoist a carcass. There's also an area that we're going to head to looking for a particular female leopard who's got two younger cubs. who's been keeping them in this thick, dense foliage on the banks. If we're very lucky, they may come out and towards the riverbed, particularly with all the rain that we've had. The moisture on the grass and the wet leaves and trees may encourage these leopards to come and hang around in the riverbed, or actually up in one of the bigger trees. As we're going, a really good place for birds as well this morning on the banks. Try and see if we can find some special birds or some smaller things, maybe some snakes. As we keep going, I mean, notoriously as well, the Birmingham Pride, which I'm sure you're all very familiar with, when it does tend to rain, and rain quite a lot, I mean, we're expecting a bit of rain this afternoon as well, they also tend to come down towards the riverbed. It's a little bit more comfortable for them. They don't have to deal with the wet grass on their whiskers, and they can kind of like wriggle around, making themselves a bit more comfortable in the sand. So, I mean, from last night with the rain, it can be a bit tricky on the roads to pick up on tracks of any animals moving around. The wild dogs that were in the east yesterday, leopards or lions, the riverbed's a really good spot. I mean, even if you have a look at these little rocky outcrops on our right-hand side here, not so long ago there was a female leopard who gave birth in these rocky outcrops. A really good place to actually store your cubs, hide them in those little crevices within there, and kind of, particularly when the female will go out to hunt, she'll have to leave her cubs there potentially for days at a time. Really good spot, nice and safe and nice and open. You can see the danger or potential danger coming from a distance. And even as, I mean, Bika has a look down in the riverbed, have a look at the activity that's going around here. There's just elephant dung everywhere. Quite a lot of holes as well that the elephants have been digging, and although there's no water in this riverbed at the moment, the underground flow is not very deep, and the elephants can just dig to get to some fresh water. And I mean, it's just incredible the amount of dung that's here and the activity that goes through this riverbed. So I'm really hoping this morning, as we keep going, that we don't find something exciting, maybe just lying in the riverbed, maybe on a rocky outcrop quite like this, or even up in a big tree. I'm going to keep going. It doesn't look like there's anything in these rocky outcrops, but let's keep going along here. Beautiful bend. It's just a really beautiful drive. I mean, the trees are, this is probably the area where we've got the biggest trees on the reserve. It really is beautiful. And for me, particularly, the birds. After rain like this, there's still lots of them calling at the moment. And this time of the year, all these migratory birds Cherry or Jerry, I'm not too sure which one that was. How deep can elephants dig for water? So in a riverbed like this, where you can see there's no water flowing as we're driving through, but the underground water, particularly when it's raining and in the summertime like this, is really not deep at all. In some areas, they may only have to dig half a foot deep. In other areas, maybe up to a foot or 2 feet deep to get to that fresh water. And you'll see, particularly in the mud wallows and things like that around, the elephants would prefer to drink fresher water. Now, the sand will almost act like a filter to this water, and when they dig, they might get some sand. They'll put their trunks in there, kind of filter the sand out. But once all the sand's gone, they'll actually get to some really fresh water. And it's not only for the elephants. I mean, they'll prefer to drink that. You'll see the little babies come into the holes that the moms dug. And those holes provide a really important water source for other animals as well, particularly during the drier seasons. Smaller animals like leopards. I mean, you saw those elephant holes that we just drove past, recently dug. But those leopard cubs that were born in those rocks, those leopard cubs would come down to those holes and drink. They wouldn't have to go very far. But I'm going to carry on going down this riverbed, see what else we can find this morning. I'm going to send you to another live location.
So we've come to our watering hole, or mud wallow, and there's a number of zebra here drinking, as you can see. Shame, and the one of them we've noticed on the far left has got a really bad injury to its eye. If you were watching last night, we were with a giraffe who actually had a very similar injury. And if you look at this one's ear, he's also got a little bit of a nip out of his ear, the ear just above his injured eye. Very similar injury to that giraffe last night. And I would say that it is the same from the same thing. I think this zebra's obviously been fighting. It's a male zebra. You can see he's got a very thick neck, and he's actually got lots of scarring down the side of his neck and on his jawbone, or on his jaw. So he's obviously the dominant stallion of this herd, and he's definitely been in a few fights. You can see there's scarring all up and down his neck. Oops. And zebras fight by, they kind of fight head to tail. They fight by kicking each other in the head and nipping at each other's tails, and I think that he has probably been kicked in the face, in the eye, and that's what's caused that eye injury. He's still in, oh yeah, the warthog with his bum in the air. Gary, he won't clean the wound. He'll just wait it out. They have unbelievably strong immune systems, and they quite good at handling infection. He'll just have to wait, and hopefully the actual eyeball hasn't been too damaged, and his eyelid will the swelling should go down, and hopefully he will make a full recovery. But there won't be any way of cleaning it. If anything, he might get a little bit irritated with it. He might kind of rub it against branches when it starts to get a little bit itchy, but that's kind of as much as he'll do. But he obviously won that fight. Otherwise, he wouldn't be here with the herd. He will have been banished. So he may have sustained a few injuries, but he was obviously successful in his fight. Good for him. Zebras really are beautiful though. I'm just forever fascinated by their stripes. You can look at them for as long as you want and just always be like mystified by them. They really, really are just something else. And also different. I mean, you can see those ones got really, really, really thick stripes. The one on the right-hand side. His stripes are so thick, and then the one on just next to that one on the left got very, very thin ones. It's just beautiful seeing the contrast or the difference between the two. Martin, no, zebras are not endangered. They're a very successful species. They breed successfully and survive successfully, and they've got a very wide range of habitats, so they don't suffer from, habitat loss. They're found in quite a number of different habitats. They're not limited to habitat, one single habitat, so they can exist in lots of different areas, and that helps to keep their population pretty strong. So no, they're not endangered. Oh, quite a lot of farting going on there. Zebras, like horses, are very gassy, and they are hind gut fermenters, which just means that they often have a lot of gas. Gas is part of what helps them to digest their food, and that's why they always look so rotund. You see they've got those very always look like they've got very full, fat bellies, and it's just full of gas. And that's why you'll hear them farting quite a lot. That gas is just sitting ready to escape at any moment. You see that they're quite skittish when they're on the water. You can imagine that it's quite a vulnerable position to put yourselves in. Head down, you're not really concentrating on what's going on around you too much, or not as much as if you aren't eating. So any little noise, they're quite quick to jump away from the water. There's quite a lot of animals here. I would actually assume that it's probably more than one herd. If it's anything more than about 10 animals, generally it'll be more than one herd together. A herd usually consists of one stallion and then a group of females and youngsters. Vicky, that is oops, I don't know what gave them that fright. An interesting question. I'm trying to now think. You making me think back to if I've ever smelt a zebra's fart. I think maybe it kind of I know what zebra poo smells like. And I'd assume that it just smells the same, like that kind of grassy smell, very similar to what horse poo smells like. But I don't think that I've ever been kind of close enough to a zebra when it farts to smell the actual zebra fart. But I think that, yes, it probably would smell just like grass or a horse poo, if anyone knows what a horse poo smells like. But thank you for that interesting question. I'll definitely pay closer attention next time a zebra farts close to me. We've got a few birds coming in, some warthogs coming in, and some impala coming in. I think I'm going to reposition and we can maybe get a view of those. But for now, we'll send you over to Tswalu.
We are here at Buffelshoek Dam, where there's a wonderful sound as well. Lots of birds around, the stork, and I'm going to be looking out for that pileated kingfisher. But for now, we're just going to listen to the gorgeous sounds. Isn't this just lovely? Well, we are going to sit here a little bit longer and chat about all the birds and the hippos and everything else going on here at Buffelshoek Dam.
Welcome back to And Beyond Ngala. Now, as we've been continuing down the riverbed, the bird life has been quite amazing, actually. Lots of them calling. And what we've managed to do is find two that haven't flown away. And these are a pair of woodlands kingfishers. And they're quite amazing birds. I mean, they've arrived back probably in about the past 15 days or so. And since they've arrived back, you hear them incredibly all around. It's like the sound of summertime. And you see the one on the right with that white in the front of it, and the one on the left kind of gives you quite a good view of the back of it, that beautiful blue and the black. Oh, now it's just hopped around showing us the white. You can see the beak or the bill. You see how I don't know if you can see how red it is at the top and how black it is at the bottom. Those are all key features to IDing this woodlands kingfisher, and of course the noise that it makes. I'd love to see these two, or hear these two rather, start to call and display. These will be a pair that will spend the rest, or they're monogamous, so they'll spend forever together. So yeah, and I mean, if they do start calling, particularly these two, their display is quite amazing. You saw that black and that blue on the backs of the wings of that one. They'll actually open their wings up and kind of dance to each other while calling. This high, loud call. It's quite amazing to watch. I really hope they do it for us. But can you see as well, they look a little bit miserable this morning. Their feathers are all puffed out, kind of hunched down. The rain can make flying incredibly difficult. So you'll see when it is raining, they'll try and take a bit of shelter and a bit of cover. And then when they need to fly, they'll have to like fluff their feathers out, get as much water out of it as they can, and kind of realign their flying feathers. Kelly, these birds are gorgeous. I couldn't agree more. Particularly this species has a real special connection to me. And people often say driving around in South Africa on safari in summertime can be a bit tricky because it can be really hot and sometimes the rain can be a bit uncomfortable. But for me, it's probably the best time of the year. I mean, lots of rain and lots of life. And lots of birds calling, new birds that you haven't seen for the whole of the winter time or the dry season. And this is a perfect example. These two, or all the woodlands kingfishers, arrive kind of mid to late November, and the bush just becomes alive. I'm sure you've been seeing lots of baby impalas and lots of baby wildebeest. There's just life all around. The flowers that you see, they really are spectacular. And summertime, to me, is definitely the best time to be out here. Everything comes alive. I mean, the one on the right, you see how it's just turned. You can kind of see the blue, and you see how it's kind of rubbing its beak on that branch. They'll often do that to kind of sharpen it, keep it in good order, and they'll often use that long beak as well to turn around and ruffle their feathers, to try and realign the feathers into flight so that they can fly correctly. And particularly after rain, they'll try and do that. It always amazes me how birds look after each other so well as well. I mean, you see how close together they are. They'll feed off of one another as well in terms of what they're doing. If the one starts to display, I'm sure the other one will as well. If the one flies off, I'm sure it will as well. Try and find some food. And although the name kingfisher, woodlands kingfisher, suggests that it eats fish, it's actually not so true with all of them, particularly in these two. They are spending a bit of time on the edge of that branch, looking around, particularly for insects. And we're talking about summertime and all the rain. All this rain will encourage lots of insects to start hatching. And the insect life is abundant at the moment, which means that there's lots of food for these birds, which is one of the reasons that they in fact migrate back to South Africa in the summertime. And that'll be true for all sorts of birds from all over the world. I mean, I heard Kim was with the redback shrike earlier. Those birds are migrating from Western Asia almost as far as Russia, which is quite incredible for such a small little bird, and a flight that it has to do once a year. It's quite remarkable, actually. And I mean, birds can be a tricky one as well, simply because they can fly and can often be quite shy. But these two have, I don't know if they're enjoying the attention of the camera or just not worried about us at all. Behaving incredibly well, just sitting there, allowing us to watch them and view them and marvel in their beautiful colors particularly. I'm waiting for them to show us their beautiful call. So Trishal, it sounds like you've got quite a well-behaved bird there as well, not flying away. So I'm going to send you straight to Trishala before that bird does fly away and give her a chance to guide you through there.
The woodland kingfisher has beautiful colors, absolutely stunning halcyon blue on it. Here we have a yellow bullstork in the tree. We're here at Buffelshoek Dam. And there's lots of interesting birds around. Our yellow bullstork is taking a break from doing its delightful dance in the water. And it's hunting. It's just having a bit of a chill. We've also got another stork, my favorite stork. Just keeping a watchful eye on a grey heron. Oh, we can hear the woodland kingfisher as well. They're all over the place and the sound of them is infectious. One starts and the others go. Oh, look at this beauty. Bungani, you'd like to know whether these birds nest on trees or on the ground? The storks, they'll create like a platform out of a whole lot of sticks, and they're usually in the tree, but they're near water. There's a little grebe. Lots and lots of gorgeous birds around. Now the grebe also creates kind of a twig-like nest. And it's usually a floating nest. It's usually at the water's edge, or sometimes they'll find something to anchor it to. Maybe a bit of branch like the fallen over tree. Remember we had that little grebe's nest at Viatella Dam. That was lovely to keep watching them and watching the little grebes. The little grebes, these are little chicks. I'm hoping that the heron will hunt for us. It's staying very, very still. Almost. I find it very relaxing to watch these birds because they have such patience as they move through the water. They try to be really accurate, hoping to get one strike. Hopefully that'll be all it takes to get a meal. Look at them. Every step is so careful. It needs to make sure that everything that it could eat, frogs, crustaceans, things like that, almost feel like they're not there. So they've got to be very, very still before they plunge their beaks into the water. Just lovely. Well, I'm going to wait here and hopefully the yellow bull stork and the saddle bull stork will also start hunting and we can watch them. But I'm going to send you over to Kim, who's also at a watering hole. Let's see what she can find there.
So some giraffe have come down and joined the menagerie that is forming around these watering holes, and we're really, really hoping that they are going to drink for us. But like I was saying, how it's quite a vulnerable position to be in with the zebras, it is ever more so for the giraffe. Obviously, it's quite a way down for them to get, and if anyone's ever seen giraffe drinking, they kind of spread their front legs open, and it's quite a thing getting down and getting back up again. So they're a lot more cautious when they approach watering holes, a lot more cautious than the animals, you know, who for drinking them. It's not as as vulnerable a position. So as you can see, these guys have just been walking in very, very slowly, bit by bit, and they're just making sure to look around and be super alert to any dangers that might be around the watering holes. And predators are well aware that watering holes are a big attraction to lots of the animals that they prey upon. And so that's why it is very important that animals around watering holes need to be very vigilant, looking around the whole time. It's also, I'm just hoping that they go to the correct watering hole out of the 3 that we are next to, because 2 we've got a great sight of, but the one that they're kind of looking at, which is more just a puddle, we can't really see it. And just three females. And just like the zebra, you can see that their markings are quite different, quite unique from one another. That middle one's got very, very dark patterning, and the one at the back's quite light. It looks like they are choosing the one that we don't have a very good view of. Green boy, I hope that no one told you that that is the case, because if they did, they were lying to you, because that is not true. The skin are thick as a zebra or a horse. Thick skin. It's very thick and it's very tough, and it's very kind of like leathery, I suppose. I mean, all animal skin is leather, but it only, I suppose, becomes leathery after it's been tanned and dried out. But an elephant's skin is already kind of that feeling. So no, the giraffe does not have thicker skin than an elephant. I think that I'm going to just, I want to reverse, because I don't want them to get up to the water and then us moving scares them away. Try and position us so that if they do go and drink from this mud puddle, then we will see it happening. There we go. Big Chief, I think that yes, they can. That is what is So most of the giraffe species are just subspecies, which means that they've kind of just evolved in their different areas. They've evolved differently, but they all used to be the same species. So I think that they can actually interbreed. Yeah, so yes, they can. They just tend to stay in their subspecies because of the areas that they're in. So, for example, obviousin Pinda, it's an isolated population of the southern giraffe, and they won't have the chance to mate with any different species. I think that, yes, I think that a crocodile probably could take down a giraffe. So, reason for my answer is that, unfortunately, I don't think we're going to see them in that position. It looks like they've decided not to drink. But when they do drink, they are they're very low down. They're in such a compromised position. Their legs are spread out at the front, and their head is obviously tilted all the way down so that they can drink. And I'd imagine that if a crocodile got a good enough grip onto, the neck or head of a giraffe, I think it's possible that it could pull it in. Crocodiles are pretty strong and they're very heavy. I think that it would mainly depend on the size of the giraffe. But like a young female or definitely a baby giraffe would for sure be able to be taken by a crocodile, but I assume that you are asking about adult giraffes. But yeah, I think that like a kind of smallish sized female giraffe could possibly be taken by a crocodile. They do have extremely strong necks though, and if the crocodile didn't have an absolutely kind of iron fist grip on the giraffe, then he probably wouldn't be successful. But I mean, crocodiles will try their luck with most things. I've even seen a video of a crocodile snatching at the trunk of an elephant. And I mean, in that case, he really is biting off more than he can chew, because he definitely wouldn't be able to pull an elephant into the water. But I think that sometimes they just see, something disturbing the water and they just have a go. No, and they have decided that they are not going to drink today, or not now at least. I think what we're going to do is I want to go back and check on those lions and see if anything has changed there, and while we're doing that, we'll send you over to Dan, who's got some birds to show you.
Welcome back to And Beyond Ngala. Now, we've shortly just popped out of the riverbed, and quite interesting. I mean, there's 5 white-backed vultures at the top of this tree. Quite a synonymous little scene with the vultures and a dead tree. They're all looking a little bit wet and miserable. I was hoping to maybe find something maybe dead around here, but at this time of the year, I know we mentioned it earlier, vultures will often come down with all the births of the wildebeest and the births of the impalas. They'll come down and they'll eat the afterbirths or even maybe a stillborn animal. So have a look as well. In front of us here, there's a jackal that's lying. Let's see if we can kind of frame that up. Let me get out of the frame. So there's a jackal there, lying on the ground as well. I wonder if that jackal's not doing exactly the same thing as those vultures. There is a wildebeest and a few impalas that are around. I wonder if they haven't... One of them has given birth maybe last night or early this morning that's brought these animals in. The jackal doesn't seem to be doing too much, just kind of taking it easy on the ground, trying to be quite comfortable. The vultures as well, they're just preening themselves. There's actually there's another 2 jackal that have joined here. I don't know if you can see them there, Beaks, to the right-hand side. If you kind of follow the road there, there's 2 of them. Looks like a little family of them. One trotting to the left, one lying in the road. The road is often a good place for them to lie on as well. That one trotting, maybe going to join up with the other one that we saw earlier. I mean, often in the summertime as well, the alates or the termites that are erupted, lots of birds and jackals will feed on those. So yeah, let's stick around here for a while and see what happens.
We are just rolling down the hill. I like to do that sometimes because it lets me hear a lot better when there's a nice hill. Just put the car off and roll. So we left Buffelshoek Dam because I wanted to find the rock monitor that was close by, but it appears it is monitoring a different mound than it once was. That is Gert's joke, everyone. But it was a really big, really nice big rock monitor. So I'm going to keep looking around in that area near Buffelshoek Dam for that monitor. We've been seeing water monitors or Nile monitors, so often it'd be nice to see a rock or bush monitor. I think they're quite cute. So now we're thinking, how about Gallego shortcut? See that dung beetle? Almost got me. Gallego shortcut. See if there are some cool little things we can find. I'd like to find some nests. Nests would be... They're always so fascinating to watch birds in nests. We've had such fun with the helmet strikes and the batis that I think we can find some more. We're just on Buffelshoek Cut Line now, which is our northern boundary. We're going to turn in a moment. Oh, wonderful! Dan has some jackals. Why don't you go over and see them?
Welcome back to And Beyond Ngala, and we're still with this jackal who's kind of moving around. Have a look. You see those birds that have just flown into frame? Those are crowned lapwings, and that jackal moving around here. Just going to listen quickly. You hear them kind of screeching and shouting. They're not very happy with the presence of that jackal, and the reason for that is these crowned lapwings are ground-dwelling birds, and they'll in fact lay their eggs in a great open area like this. And that jackal moving through, if it manages to find that nest, I mean, it's incredibly well camouflaged and not easy to find. But if that jackal does find it, it's going to eat all these lapwing eggs. Or even if it manages to find the chicks that have hatched, it will eat those chicks. So these lapwings fly around and they kind of mob and chase jackal particularly away. They try and distract them from the areas where they have laid their eggs. I wonder if you can see that jackal sniffing around, smelling, listening as well. Kind of just seeing what's happening around. I wonder if it didn't smell something that quickly, maybe a small rodent that ran into a hole around there. Or picked up on a scent that has interested it. Maybe that's exactly where one of those other jackal were lying as well earlier. Now, just the fact that there were 3 of them around it would suggest that this is a family. So there'll be a male and a female, and there can be up to several pups. I only saw 3 of them in total, so maybe it's one pup that has managed to survive, and it looked like quite a big one as well, managed to grow and survive. I don't know if you can see in that frame, there's a few zebra way in the background there, a wildebeest that's kind of watching that jackal. That lone wildebeest is a male, so he's definitely not given birth to anything this morning, and it doesn't look like he's got any females around. Phil, do we get coyotes in South Africa? I'm afraid we don't get coyotes in South Africa. However, this is probably our closest thing to a coyote as far as I'm aware. I've never seen a coyote before. But I know you do find them in Australia, particularly that side, if I'm not mistaken. But a jackal, I think, might be a little bit smaller than a coyote. But I mean, even look at how that wildebeest is watching that jackal. Okay, he's not too worried about it. That jackal's not going to attack that wildebeest. But maybe if a female wildebeest maybe gave birth, that would be an opportunity for that jackal to come in and see if it might be able to take a newborn calf that hasn't found its feet just yet. Or even the placenta would be a good thing for that wildebeest to take, that jackal to take. I'm going to move a little bit forward, see if we can't get another look at that jackal, but have a look at these vultures as well on our right-hand side. We've actually got a little bit closer to them, and big, heavy birds, it's quite tricky for them to fly. I'm not intending to chase them away at all, but I'm sure on a warmer day, they might have flown once we got so close. You can hear in the background there, can you hear that high-pitched chirping? That's a brown-headed parrot. It sounds a lot like a parakeet. They're the only parrots that we really get here at Ngala. But these vultures, you see the one on the right kind of putting its head into its feathers, cleaning, rearranging, making sure it's dry enough that if it did need to fly, it would be able to fly quite easily. And the advantage of being in a dead tree like this, you can see the size of those birds, and we're all aware that vultures are some of the bigger birds that we find out here. But being at the top of a dead tree, there's no foliage or leaves or to kind of interfere when that vulture does need to fly. And being so heavy, it needs its wings to flap quite quickly. And even being able to jump from there, they might use a bit of the gravity to drop a little bit before they fly, whereas a tree full of leaves can make that quite tricky. You'll see they might wait. I mean, the clouds in the background are still quite heavy and are threatening to rain at any moment. And they rely solely on sight to hunt these vultures. So what they'll do is they'll kind of fly up into the sky, get up as high as they can. They use thermals, so often on a hot day it's much easier for them to get right up into the sky. And they'll use that really good vantage point from right up in the sky to have a look down, see if they can't find food. They'll also look for other vultures that are going down. Those are also signs that we look for out here. Natalie, very good question. Do vultures hunt live prey or do they only scavenge? Now, it all depends on which vulture we are talking about. So in this area, we have 5 different vultures, of which this white-backed vulture is one, and probably is the most common one that we see around. These ones are predominantly scavengers. However, a lappet-faced vulture, which is quite significantly bigger than these, are known to hunt. So we've been talking about it quite a lot this morning, about the impala lambs and the wildebeest calves. A lappet-faced vulture might try and take advantage of this time of the year with the little babies to try and hunt. But this white-backed vulture, they're not very good hunters. They prefer to scavenge. A white-headed vulture, which is a beautiful one as well, they may in fact do some hunting as well. And then the hooded vulture, they are almost exclusively scavengers as well. They may even go and move around lion prize, feeding on their scat, which is still full of protein. And then finally the Cape vulture, which we don't see too frequently. They actually have to fly an incredible long way. And I was mentioning how they hunt by eyesight. They've got no sense of smell. So those Cape vultures from about maybe even 60 kilometers away, the northern point of the Drakensberg, they will nest in there. And when they fly up on a hot day, they can see an incredibly long distance. And if they see these white-backed vultures kind of going down with purpose, they may fly all the way from those northern points of the Drakensberg to Ngala over here to try and see if they can find a meal. But that long distance means that we don't see the Cape vultures all too often. They're all looking quite busy, hey? Cleaning themselves, rearranging, preening. You can often imagine as well vultures spending a lot of time in dead animals, often rotting carcasses. The smell on those feathers might be quite pungent and not so nice. Well, that one at the top left, trying to keep its balance. I wonder if that branch would break, what would happen? So they're all just kind of rearranging. I wonder if they might not try and find another spot to fly and rest for the rest of the day. But I'm going to send you to Kim from here to her cuddly lionesses, as one would say. And yeah, I hope that works out.
So we've made our way back to the lions, and luckily for us, they've started to get a little bit more active. As we got here, they were yawning and grooming themselves, which is always a good sign. And now we can see that there's a little bit of play going on here between two of the brothers. Quite lazy play. Hopefully, well, let's see. Maybe I'll get a little bit more energetic. It's so sweet watching them play like this, because if you look at their claws, you can actually see that they keep their sharp claws in retracted, so they don't actually injure each other. They just bat one another with their paws and not with the claws. Obviously, their goal here is not to injure one another. It's just play, which is very important for development for them when they start hunting later on. They'll be probably involved in the hunting at the moment, helping Mum hunt. Look how flexible, scratching himself right between the shoulder blades. Be quite useful if we could do that. His brother's like, let me get that for you. Oh. Very slow, lazy play for now, where it's still just waking up. Oh. See how they both even, aim to bite and nip each other around the neck. And again, like I was saying, it's very important development skills, because that's eventually how they'll take down and kill and suffocate their prey, by grabbing it by the throat. Just like flopping on each other. Not really. Oh, there we go. That one's face when he went for... He's like, this isn't fun anymore, stop it. Jen saying she wishes she was as flexible as the lions can be. And yeah, I suppose it would be pretty useful if you could scratch yourself on the back as they do. It's always quite frustrating when you get that itch in that spot that you just can't reach. One brother looks like he's going to possibly go and... Oh, he's playing with a log. maybe sharpening his claws. Looking over his brother like, my toy is more fun than your toy. He's literally chewing it. What is he doing? That's so hilarious. Well, I don't think he quite knows what he's doing either. Leslie, they do carry on with the playful behaviour to adulthood. It just becomes a little bit less. Obviously, when they're adults, they conserve most of their energy for hunting and for looking after themselves and for defence. When they're young, they've obviously got the... What is he doing? They've obviously got the protection of their parents, so they don't really need to conserve their energy, and they're not hunting, so all their energy goes into play, which is important because it's developing their skills. When they're older, though, and if they've got cubs of their own, you will sometimes see them playing with the cubs. But I assume that that's more just to help the cubs develop. That was very interesting, that little flirtation with the log. I think he got bored of, or maybe he wanted to play with something that wasn't going to bite him back. All settling down again a bit. Mum's having a nice long stretch. Can't see her at the moment. Ellie, you're right. They do act very similar to domestic cats. The way that they play with one another, the way that they stretch, the way that they, what you could see him doing, like kind of clawing at that log, just how domestic cats destroy furniture by clawing it. Yeah, they do. Oh, he's back at the log. But you're right, they're very, very similar to domestic cats. All the same kind of development skills. Obviously cats get fed, so they have a lot more time for playing because they don't have to conserve their energy for hunting. I'm really enjoying watching that lion play with that log. I mean, what the hell is he doing? Wow, you can see, he's changed position now, but when his claws come out, you can actually really see how unbelievably sharp and big those claws are. Also just kind of reminds you that it's pretty important for them to keep those claws away when they're playing with each other, because it can do some serious damage. Well, I mean, even on the back foot there that you can see just under his chin and under the log. Oh, he's moved it now. Shame. I mean, and you sometimes come across animals that have narrowly escaped the attack of a lion, and they just have these unbelievably deep gouges or gashes down their rumps, from where lions obviously chased and try to grab hold, and then as the animal runs away, their claws just pull back and leave these enormous gashes along the rumps of these animals. Shame. But I mean, you can just see there when he had his claws out. They're like sharp, sharp little knives. It's not only the teeth that that you need to look out for on these guys. But yeah, I mean, just going back to the question about playfulness and being playful up until adulthood, even these sub-adult males, they already are playing a lot less than they used to when they were much younger. It's always nice watching a pride of lions that have a litter of cubs, because you know that there's always going to be a bit of action. We all know that lions sleep most of the time. So when there's a pride with a litter of cubs, you can almost always be guaranteed a bit of action, because they're up and playing and running around. And as we've seen today, these guys are far less active than that. They're just sleeping most of the time. And this one's already looking like he wants to go back to sleep. Woke up for a little bit to annoy his brother, but now that energy is expended and he's having another nap. I think that because the mum's kind of up and looking around now. Well, she's not up, she's lying down with her head up, but she looks relatively alert, quite similar to what we were seeing earlier when we were with them. And I think that they are probably, they've decided that they've got quite a nice little vantage point here, and I think that they'll probably rest here the whole day, but they will also be on the lookout for any unsuspecting prey species to mosey on by, and then they will probably take the opportunity.
Have you been watching Wild Earth and dreamt of being right there on safari with one of the guides? Well, now you can. Wild Earth is offering you a chance to buy a ticket to dream. You or a friend can hop on board a live Wild Earth show and join our guide on safari. The ticket is redeemable at any of our locations anytime in the future. Only a limited number of tickets are available, so don't wait. Get your ticket now and start dreaming. Terms and conditions apply.
My name is Lauren, and I'm currently working in Djuma Private Game Reserve here in South Africa. I love answering your questions during the live safaris. It's my favorite part. It feels like you're on the vehicle with me, and I'm able to teach you exactly what you want to know. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, you must go to the live safari page and ask your question below the live feed. Welcome to my car. This is Wendy, and she's my favorite. She would love to have your name attached to her, so you can be with her every single time she goes on a safari here in Djuma. If you become a Wild Earth Explorer, you will have the opportunity to buy an engraved tag, which we will attach to her. We will make sure to send you a digital picture to show you exactly where you are sitting on her. You will have front row seat in every single sighting.
We've seen these Ellies really chase wild dogs before. Let's get into the spot. There we go, there it comes. Look at that, isn't that amazing?
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily.
We have some very peaceful impalas. In fact, they were so peaceful that one was even had its head flat on the ground, sleeping. It was so cute. Very, very cute. But you can see they're all lying down. And when they lie down like this usually means they're very, very comfortable, because it's a vulnerable position to be in. I think they're settling in for a day of Netflix and snacks. Which for them is just leaves and possibly watching the cars go by as we drive across quarantine. That's the entertainment for the impalas. Imagine what they do for fun. Probably jump around. Everyone's very, very relaxed. They look very, very comfy. And they're setting me in the mood of Netflix and some snacks too. It's been a quiet morning, but I'm so glad that we got to see Tlalamba and lots of things happening with Kim as well. And we had Dan jump on board, and we wouldn't have had Tlalamba if it weren't for, of course, Tristan. So I think it's been a day of variety. And one of those quieter ones out in the bush. But it's kind of the ones I enjoy, where we get to just drive around and chat about all sorts of things. It's kind of like you really are on board with me. I enjoy it very much. This afternoon, I think it promises to be a little bit more exciting as it warms up, and that's when we'll see you next. So thank you so much for your questions and your comments. See you all this afternoon. Everybody, we're here on quarantine with lots and lots of antelope about. Isn't that beautiful? You'll be able to see that it's very, well, you won't be able to see, but I'm telling you, it's very humid, it's very hot. You'll be able to see the wind blowing, all these antelope sticking around in quarantine. And that's because there's a storm brewing on Djuma Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands. So hop on board, everyone, for your live safari through the African bush. Hello, hello. It is humid indeed. There are so many big storm clouds all over the place. It's quite exciting, actually.